So Chris Grenier joins the podcast. Zero agenda. We're just a couple of frothers that love moto. And I think that's probably what the next 3 hours is going to be.
I'm able to pursue my passions a little bit more and turn the volume down on my snowboarding and then turn the volume up on C-Class battles. Heat race win for the LCQ. I was flying a little too close to the sun. I was jacked up and I ripped the holey. Full gate at Mammoth, ripping a fucking hole shot up the hill. There's nothing better. Take snowboarding, for example. It's like this intermittent flow out on the track. And I have moments when I'm like, this is the best moment of my life. You got the adrenaline, you're flowing, you're loose, you're light, and don't forget how goddamn fun it is. It's unbelievable. Hey, look at Carson Brown. I love watching him just wring the neck of a fucking old two-stroke or XR.
This episode is brought to you by Yamaha and the all-new 2024 YZ250F. It's no secret that I've been a big fan of this 250F.
Where would you go right now if you want to win a lights championship?
Star Yamaha. And in 2024, Yamaha has migrated their latest chassis platform to the quarter liter king. With the new chassis designed to give you flex in the right areas that allow for maximum feel through the turns without sacrificing stability. There's also an all-new Ergos package designed at slimming down the bike and updates to the rider triangle to improve rider comfort. The Yamaha still has that same exciting engine package that has become a modern icon in the 250 class, rocketing Star Racing to the lion's share of the last decade's titles. Combine this with Yamaha's Bluetooth connectivity for easy mapping and engine monitoring, and you have one of the best production 250s on the market today. To learn more, head to YamahaMotorsports.com or click the link in the description below.
I met a gypsy.
So Chris Grenier joins the podcast. He is the host of the Bomb Hole podcast, which is maybe one of the best snowboarding podcasts on the planet. And we haven't known each other that long. We met at Mammoth, but you're one of those people, you know, when someone comes so highly regarded by people that you regard extremely highly, that's you. So there's a whole crew of people that are just like, Grenier is the fucking man. And then we met and I was like, oh, confirmed. He is the fucking man. And now we're doing the podcast.
Wow, that's cool to hear. Yeah, so hyped to be here chatting with you. It should be fun. Banter marathon today.
Yeah, we're like the same dude in a lot of ways. We're C-Class warriors that fucking froth moto, and we've randomly found ourselves doing quite large podcasts within our industry. So I feel like there's probably a lot to cover.
100%. And like with Tyler Bierman and Axel and those guys and Vicky, I tell them, I'm like, you guys like moto? I love moto. It's my shit. You know what I mean? Like they do it for a job. I spend all my hard-earned money on fucking suspension or whatever because I love it. So I'm so hyped to be chatting with you guys about moto.
So how did you get into it? Like, you're a professional snowboarder and you guys basically chase winter around forever, and it's like the opposite of being a surfer basically, where they just chase summer around. How did moto kind of fit into your life to even get you started?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I had an XR80, so I just
bang, there you go.
Yeah, I just grew up in Massachusetts, riding around the woods. Didn't do anything serious, just kind of fucking around, and then moved out to Utah when I was 17 or 18. Always had like an XR 400, and then I got a 250F, but I couldn't really pursue it when I was in kind of the prime of my career because you can't get hurt. So now that I am more of a podcaster, still a snowboarder, but I'm able to pursue my passions a little bit more and turn the volume down on my snowboarding and then turn the volume up on C-Class battles.
Yeah, dude. So actually, let's just, for context, this is fucking, we have to play this clip.
God.
This is like the clip of the fucking century. So Shira sent me this last night. I was thankfully here for this in person, but this is a level of frother that we're working with here, people. So this is from Mammoth, the C-Class LCQ.
Air horns, check.
This was a moment.
Get this guy some champagne!
All right, we're gonna go to the interviews. The fucking
basically all my friends had air horns at Mammoth when I'm going around. This is my podium speech you got here?
Yeah.
I missed the whole moto. Now I'm here. Yeah.
Well, 30 C-Class, got out there and, Jeff Lawrence went 22-0. The 30-plus C-Class LCQ win feels a little bit better to me. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh, dude, it was a fucking that was literally like my first interaction with you. Like, we hadn't met at this point yet, and everyone's like, you gotta meet Grenier, you gotta meet Grenier. And then we watched you just rip the 30 plus C class. And the best part is that qualified you for the rest of the day, and you were just like, fuck that, like, I'm going out on top, I can't do any better than this.
Oh my bucket was full. I was overflow. I was so happy. And a few years ago, 3 years prior, I cross-rutted in, I think it was that Dragon's Back section in the back.
Yeah.
And I got 12 staples in my leg. So I'm like a no one to hold them, no one to fold them guy. I got a heat race win for the LCQ. I was flying a little too close to the sun. I was jacked up, and I ripped a holy, which is like ripping a holy at Mammoth. I don't give a fuck what you do in life, like pro surfer, pro snowboarder, pro skateboarder, like a fucking full gate at Mammoth, ripping a fucking hole shot up the hill is like there's nothing better. Like, I don't give a shit what anybody says. Like, it's insane. I'm never in the front. I'm like a mid pack guy. So I was out there so I got passed, and then on the first lap down the hill, and I knew I had the pace on the guy in front of me. But when you're in front, when you're leading at Mammoth, you're just like, holy shit, there's nobody in front of me.
Dude, it was so sick. And we're just like screaming the entire time, like air horns and shit. And everyone's just like, fuck, this is the 30 C-Class LCQ. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
Oh, Mammoth is like...
Mammoth is that place.
It's that place, and also it's a snowboard town. And, when you're leading, they're like, Chris Grenier on the microphone. So the flaggers, I'm pretty sure, were snowboarders. I had, like, all my friends with air horns. I had the pip board, and then it's like Bierman and Vicky and Seth and all these guys, and I'm, like, seeing the fist pumps everywhere I go. I felt like I was at, like, Des Nations, like, leading, like Carmichael or something. You know what I mean? It was so fun. So, yeah.
Oh, dude, I love it. Man, I had the first moto at Glen Helen. Everyone's like, McGrath was the gate before, and then my brother's class went, I think I was the third gate, and then I was on the Stark, and I like literally pulled into McGrath's gate, and I was like, fuck it, let's go. I hadn't done any starts on the Varg, and then I just ripped the biggest start, and I'm just fully like looking around like, holy fuck, and I'm like, I'm gonna rip the whole shot at Glen Helen. This dude come around the outside on a Cowie though and pit me. I kind of pussied out a little bit, but I think that's like probably the best thing about moto is me, you, Ricky Kant, like, it's all the same shit. Like, it's all the same feeling, and that's why even us C-Class heroes can love this shit so much.
110%. Like, if you go to, like, at Mammoth, for example, I was out there for practice, and I hear like a little, like a yee, like coming, and on the outside, I see number 2, Showtime, passed me on the outside on a 1-2-5, and I'm just like, that's the fucking king of super. What's better than that? Like, you can't be a pro football player and go play football with Tom Brady. Yeah. But I can go ride practice with Jeremy McGrath, and I was racing day in the dirt, and I got passed by Josh Grant, and I thought I was going as fast as my motorcycle could take me.
And you weren't.
And he's just like you're not even moving, And it's fucking amazing. Yeah, it's like one of those, like, it's Talladega Nights. He's like, well, was that the other car? What was that? Like, that's what it feels like with Josh Grant's up on the hill just flying past you. So, yeah, I love it.
Dude, no, it was a super cool deal, that whole Mammoth weekend. And, it's just the whole, like, vet racing thing in general is just so cool over here. Like, this is my first time. When I lived here the first time, I lived here from like 2010 to 18, but I didn't really ride. I grew up racing and riding my whole life, and then I was working for teams over here, and I was going to all the supercrosses, and I was actually just surfed and played golf, basically. It wasn't until I went home that I kind of got a little bit more into it. So now I'm like reliving all of my childhood dreams by like being here, racing the tracks and all that sort of shit. But the whole vet scene's fucking insane here, dude.
Oh, dude, it's incredible. And you pull up to the line, and the thing that's great is you're like, you got to work on Monday? You got to work on Monday? Me too. Let's keep it tight. Let's have fun, you know? And and I do like desert races. I'll do an 80-mile desert race. I'll do a GP.
Yeah.
I'll do day in the dirt. I'll do, to me, I don't discriminate when it comes to racing. But yeah, moto is definitely the most fun.
Dude, speaking of that, actually, are you busy February 17th?
Midwinter?
Midwinter,
honestly, probably. Yeah, what do you got going on?
So we're doing a race. We're doing our own race. So have you seen, do you know Verb Moto?
Yep.
Yeah, so you know how they do their Verb Shred Tours?
Yep.
So we're doing our own. It's like the Gypsy Tales 8-hour classic presented via Verb Moto. So it's an 8-hour team race.
Damn.
So you can either Ironman it, you can do a 3-man team or a 4-man team. And basically you get one transponder per team. And it's a 20-minute lap time. So it's, Mesquite, the world.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a GP down there next weekend.
So it's there basically. So we're doing, it's a half lap of the moto track, then it's the works loop, and then it's the other half of the moto track.
It's all sand, yeah.
And it's basically, it'll be like 20-minute lap time, and then you come into your pit, you clip on your transponder, or you put in your mate's Camelback, or like however you want to do it, and then you just go for 8 hours. And it's whoever does the most laps in 8 hours wins.
Amazing.
But so we do them in Australia, and it's called the Transmoto Race Series, and it's the fucking best shit ever. So the Verb guys were like, we should do an event in 2024. I'm like, this is what we're doing. Because I feel the same way. Like, those races actually got me back into racing and riding too, because I always say to people, you're almost a dickhead if you want to win. Like, if you go there to win those races, you're a loser, and I don't want to hang out with you. Like that, and that's, I think, why Day in the Dirt works. Like, no one goes to Day in the Dirt because they want to win, They're just there for the whole vibe of the weekend. So, yeah, we're doing that. So, if you're busy, but winter, snowboarder, probably
still,
tough.
Though, I think that talking about the mentality of racing, I think I'm seeing a renaissance of people having fun racing, in the sense where it's like when you're young, people come up and it's like you're on the minis and everybody's really competitive and this is super dads, and then you got the schoolboys and all the kids are out for blood. Everybody basically like under the age of 30 is like, feels like they're out for fucking blood. And then you get into vet racing and it's like, let's have good times. Let's do some good times racing. And I think that it's about racing without ego. You know, you gotta, there's a degree where you want to be fast and you want to win, but there's that like kind of tough guy mentality that kind of melts away in some of these races, which is what I love.
Well, I think a part of that is because the dream's over.
Yeah.
A1 is not in our future. Like,
it's a good point.
You know what I mean? And I think that when you're a kid, like, I fucking sucked as a kid. Like, I've always been not the best racer. And it's like, even then you still think I can get better. I could, if I train, if I I could make it. And now it's like, no, the ship has sailed. It's left the fucking dock. We're on the island. Let's just have fun here. Like, you know what I mean? I ain't swimming to no other fucking island to try and get somewhere different. Like, this is who I am, where I'm at.
100%. Yeah, my fiance, when we first started dating, she's like, yeah, Chris is going to a dirt bike race. And she's like, oh, cool. Is he like sponsored? She's like, no. Is there money involved? He's like, no. She's like, what is it? She's like, well, it's basically a bunch of grown men living out their childhood dreams. I'm like, that is exactly what it is.
Dude, nailed it. Like, when I was a kid, we were fucking so broke and our bikes were so shit. My first fucking race bike was a TTR 125 and I was a senior, bro. I was a senior on the line next to like CR 250s, fucking YZ 250, like sick dudes on sick race bikes, and I'm there with the like our fucking method was to pull the baffle out. Like, that was the horsepower that we were getting out of this bike, So like now, dude, my 350 is the biggest, most bullshit. Well, actually, Steve's 350 that I commandeered off him. It's the most bullshit bike of all time. It's got Showa A-kit forks, a track shock. It's got a Yoshi pipe. It's got FCP engine mounts. It's got X-Trig triple clutch, like everything. Literally, and I could ride a stock bike the same speed.
100%.
But guess what? I'm healing fucking trauma over here, baby.
100%. And yeah, same thing. I got Enzo 4. I got a 350, gas 350. I got the Twisted Development. I got the Enzo front forks. I got the Guts Racing like wing seat. I'm buying all this shit I don't need. It's like, really, Chris, you should actually just go like work on some corner speed, maybe hammer some.
Hey, do a run. Just do a run.
Exactly. It's like, the forks are what I need. But, also, that's what's great about getting older. You know, when I was a kid, you can't
afford
I'm buying
that
a piece.
shit.
I'm like,
Yeah.
all right, I got $1,500. I'm gonna buy a piece of shit XR or whatever. Now I got some money I can spend on parts, and it makes me happy. So why the fuck not? You know?
Yeah. No,
So-
I'm in the exact same boat, dude. And it's like I don't know. There is something kind of like healing about it in a sense, you know. Like you're a kid, you feel all these limitations when you're young, and you have to. You just get what you're given. Like if you're in such like a box, and there's at least for me, I spent so much of my childhood thinking, oh, I want this, I want that. Or there's probably holes in that. If you're a psychologist, you could probably say there's some weird shit.
What
going on
void
there.
are you trying to fill?
Yeah. But it's like now, same boat. It's like, hey, I can do this. I like this. It's fun. You know, we spent this whole World Vets week was literally the dream. Like we lived the fucking dream. My brother came over. My parents came over. My mate Franco came over. He's like builds race engines and race suspension. Like he's the man. So he came over. My best mate Azza came over, who he ended up getting third, which was awesome. And it's like we just went to the track, and then we washed our bikes, and then we came home, and new shit kept rocking up for the bikes, and we were putting parts on. Tuesday we went to the track and we were testing, and it's like dropping fork oil heights, and it's like I think the cool way to say it too is like, if you just deposited $1 billion into my bank account last week, I couldn't have made my life better with that money. You know, like that, I couldn't have spent it in a way that would have made my life better for the week that I just did. And that is such a cool thing to be able to say, like, we fucking lived the dream.
100%. And out there on the track too, dude, when you're out there and you're riding and you're in that sweet spot, like there's nothing that compares to moto in the fact that, like, take snowboarding, for example. It's a gravity fed sport.
Yeah.
So in order to like have a run, you know, you might go up a chairlift, and then you got 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes of riding down, maybe stopping, and you're getting into flow in the snowboard park. You're hitting a jump line, but you might get into flow for like 30 seconds, 40 seconds,
Yeah.
and you lock in, or you're hiking a rail and you're battling a trick in the streets, or you know, hiking a jump in the backcountry. But it's like this intermittent flow.
Yeah.
Whereas out on the track, I got the fucking stopwatch, which is hilarious. I'm like, I'm gonna go do I'm gonna do 230s. I'll build a program for myself.
Yeah.
I'm doing 230s, and then I'm gonna hammer a left-hander for like 20 minutes. And then so, like, I'm out there, I'm doing one of my 30s, and I have moments when I'm like, this is the best moment of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm not even joking. Like, that happens to me a lot on the dirt bikes. It's just like, you got the adrenaline, you're flowing, you're loose, you're light, and you know, you're catching fucking air. Like, I think that's the one thing too for people that have been riding dirt bikes their whole life. Like for me, I'm like honeymoon phase of really like diving in.
Yeah.
And it is like, don't forget how goddamn fun it is. It's unbelievable, you know?
Oh man, you're so right too. Like it's cool to bring that up, because I'd say that you'd be a guy that would really experience some pretty like heavy peak flow moments, and the feeling of landing like a really gnarly trick or hitting something really gnarly in like the backcountry, or like that would be pretty amazing, but it's very short lived. And that's one of the cool things with moto, is that when you're out there doing like a 20 or a 30, like you're really dipping into like a fucking cool place. And that was one of the things, like, because this year I did train a lot for the race. Like I didn't do as well as I not thought I would. Like I didn't do that good, to be honest. Like I feel like I have a lot more. And now that I've trained for something like this, I feel like I could adjust a lot of shit to do a lot better. But one thing that I learned through this that is so valuable, and I think probably will help my moto for the rest of my life, is to stay in it for a 20 or a 30, and to like ride the waves that you go through. Like you get out to Glen Helen and lap 3, your arms are pumped up and you're like, fuck, this sucks. Like, and any other day I would have pulled off the track and just like, I'm gonna need a drink, I'm gonna change my bike, but when your stopwatch is on the bars and you're looking at the time and you've got to be out there for that 20 minutes, and then it's like lap 3 you're kind of struggling, lap 4 you find a little bit, and then lap 5, 6 and 7 you're actually really starting to flow, and you forgot all about that lap 3 shithole that you kind of went through, and you really can start to ride these waves. And I just got to the point where, mentally you just go out and you do 20s. And like I had one day at Parla, it was on the vet track before I had my suspension. So I was riding Steve's XCF 350 and dude, just 420s on the vet track.
Damn.
And just flowing the whole, like my riding felt awesome. And it's granted super smooth, super easy track, but man, that shit did stick with me. I was like, fuck, I've actually been missing there's a lot of juice I've been missing from this squeeze, like I wasn't squeezing hard enough, and there's a lot more that I could have been getting out of this, and that actually won't leave me now. And it's like that, I know now that I can go and spend 20-25 minutes on the track and ride through all these different kind of waves of like that flow state.
Totally. And it's even bizarre too when you look at, you got a transponder on your bike at a race or something, and you look at your lap times and you think that the sprint lap was the fast one, but it's like the last lap, and you're like, literally, damn, I thought I was throwing anchor, but I was actually just hitting my marks. Yep. And then, it's really fun to get out there. And, at first, when I first was riding the track, I was stiff, and, I used to my friends would call me Ricky Mortis, because when you die, you get stiff and you get rigor mortis. Dude,
that's me, bro.
Yeah, and now I'm like loosening up, and like I think I'm doing a whip. Really, my butt moves to the side a little bit, but it's fun, dude. And especially, I've been really loving the GPs lately. I've raced 2 in Salt Lake. One was a sand race that I just did, and I had the MX-14 on, and I was just surfing around, and it's 50 minutes, and you just really get into that wild flow of a 50-minute moto. And I like when it gets spread out. You're when you're doing a 15-minute sprint and there's 3 bikes on the jump at the same time, and some guys like showing you a wheel, and it's kind of nice when you kind of, it separates and you're running your own race and you're just focusing on technique, and you're like, squeeze the bike, set myself up good for the corner, look ahead. Those are the things that go through my head on the dirt bike. And it's so fun because, if you think about, for me, I've been a pro snowboarder my whole life. I've been snowboarding since I was a fucking kid. I know how to do all my shit on a snowboard. Like that's really all I don't want to say it's all I know,
that's
but
walking to
but
you,
that's
like it's
exactly. And so for me to go do something new, I have to go to great lengths.
Yes.
And now on the dirt bike, every time I go out, I see improvement. Yeah. And so, I'll work a rut for a while. I'll just go work a left-hander, right-hander. I'll hit it 50, 100 times. And then, then the next time I go out, my lap times will be better or whatever, or like for me, I was back of the class, mid-class. This year I got 3 hole shots racing, and then, I got some podiums, and I got some 7s, and I got this fucking wall of these shitty trophies. And my fiance, she's like, you like those moto trophies more than your snowboard trophies, don't you? I'm like, fuck yeah, this shit's hard.
Yeah. It's so much harder than what you've spent your whole life snowboarding. And there would have been times where that shit came super easy, and it's almost like you could win without, effort in a sense, I'm sure, when shit's clicking. And it's like, it's fucking rewarding when you've got to dig deep at something that doesn't come as natural.
And then when I strap my snowboard on my feet and I go ride, and I'm like, oh, like, the thing that's great about being, a mediocre dirt bike guy is that you're like, how do I say this? Like, being a mediocre dirt bike dude, like, your ego gets deconstructed, right? You're like, I know where I stand in the pack, and I'm a fucking goon, And then when I go strap into my snowboard, I'm like, oh, this is refreshing. Actually, I'm good at this, Yeah. And I think it's really good for just in human nature to like not stick to the things we're good at, to learn new things and deconstruct the ego and just try to get better. I don't show up with my chest puffed up thinking I know what I do. Like, I'm riding with Vicky, and I'm like, hey, could you give me some pointers? And she's like, you and on a snowboard, we like to pop, right? So I like to like try to go as high as I can off the jump and make the landing and have airtime. And it's all about like a good snap off the lip. And she's like, you slow down, like you're going slow, and then you gas it at the end of the jump. She's like, you want to take a bunch of speed and kind of like go through it. And I'm like, I've never thought about it like that, because I think my mind is so trained to try to fucking go up. That makes total sense. So it's fun. Like, I'm learning all these. I've done some coaching, I'm out there, 30, 35-year-old man out there getting coached, and I'm like, it's fun, So yeah, moto kicks ass.
Yeah, I was definitely very humbled in the first fucking race. I almost got the whole shot. I was like third. I come out in third, and I probably got passed by 20 dudes the first lap. Like, it was humiliating. I was riding around being like, what the fuck is going on? Right. I was so slow, so tight, and I just had nothing for literally anybody on the fucking track. And I come off, and I mean, it's one of those things where when you kind of know where you're at, like, I know I'm a mediocre dirt bike guy. That's like the best way to describe it. So you don't really have like expectations, and then that doesn't really give you pressure. Like, if you know where you're at and you accept it, then it's like a little bit easier to swallow. But fuck, I was humbled. I was like, my God. And my heart rate went through the roof. I got crazy arm pump, which I don't get really arm pump. And I just come off the track and I was like, well, shit. Like, this is fucking, that was very, very, very humbling. And I had to like 5 minutes to charge my bike a little bit and get some water and go down the line and just try and do it all again. I was like, this is no fucking joke right now.
Especially, you know, in Glen Helen is like the mecca, you know, and people are dogs that have been riding their whole life there. When I felt the same way doing Day in the Dirt, and you're just like, holy shit, these guys are fast. But I noticed too, I like to really have intent on riding with no ego. Because when I was younger, when I was like, you know, in my early 20s, I'd be like, yeah, I'll fucking hit everything, like horrible technique, and just wad up all over the place. And that's what I've noticed. Whenever I'm kind of riding like in my ego, so to speak, I crash.
Yeah.
But when I'm like, dude, this guy's got you covered, man. Just let him by.
Yeah.
And then I'm just kind of racing myself. And then when you ride your own race, who knows? That guy might tuck the front 2 corners later, and you're back up. You know, but when you try to ride over your head, you get tired. You know, go over the bars.
yeah. And you go to the fucking hospital.
And you go to the hospital.
Well, I think that's the other thing too, is like moto. I mean, snowboarding the same, but like moto has real legitimate consequences. Like, you have to have some serious, I guess, like mental fortitude to just not press send at all times. And, you know, like, I just had to watch those dudes pass me on that first lap and just fucking suck it up and just like do my shit, try not to crash. But it was definitely in preparing for the race. Like, my whole goal was like, okay, I want to just be fit enough to do my races. Because when I was a kid, I didn't really train. Bikes weren't great. Like, it was just a sufferfest. Like, crazy arm pump all the time. Like, just, I never really felt like I could just go as fast as I could for the whole time. So that was like kind of my goal going into it. But, and I'd say I like achieved that goal, but fuck, you just need to race.
Yeah.
Like, to get good at racing, you have to race. Like, I got really, really good at practicing riding. Yeah. Like, but I did not get good at racing. Yeah. And I found that out really quickly.
You know what I've identified that I think is one of the coolest things about racing is, you know, I think oftentimes we look at like fear as a bad thing, but, you know, Bierman works with Troy Eckert. Has he ever told you about that?
Yeah.
So I work with Troy as well.
Yeah, okay.
So Eckert was one of the founders of Volcom. He does like mindset coaching stuff. Yeah. So I work with him every Wednesday, and he surfs bombs, like huge waves. He's a big wave surfer. And
shit.
Shredder of a surfer. And he's like, yeah, there's some swell coming in this week. It's going to be really big. And I was like, well, do you like that? He's like, I like to feel the fear. And I like the way he framed that up, because it reminded me of rolling the dirt bike to the line. And you're like, you're kind of signing up for those butterflies. You're signing up. There's something that's kind of, you know, it's fucking dangerous. You know, there's no arguing that. And so when you roll your bike to the line, the butterflies come up, a little bit of fear and anxiety comes up, and like embracing that is a fucking cool thing, you know. And it keeps a lot of people away from racing, I think, too. But
yeah. Well, I don't know if I got that nervous for this, because I think my expectations were like, so I would say to like my wife, she's like, oh, are you nervous? And she does jiu-jitsu competitively. I do jiu-jitsu competitively. And I was say to her, like, I'm really not nervous, because I know I can't win. Like, it's just not a thing I'm going to do today. Like, I feel like the nerves for me come more with expectations. Jiu-jitsu for me, like, because I've won a lot of competitions in that. So every single time I compete, I have an expectation that I'm going to win. The gym has an expectation that I'm going to be able to win. And I think that fucks with you a lot more. So, like, even signing up for a jiu-jitsu competition, like when you fill in the form online, I have full sweats, like crazy, and I'm better at that than moto, like that. And that's one of the things that I've found kind of weird in this whole process as well, is like, I think your level of, I guess, like fear or anxiety is really tied to your expectations. And I think that there's probably like a lesson in that in other places in life, where it's like, I guess it's it is a good thing to feel that fear. And I think what we're after more often than not is we like to feel the relief of doing something.
Yeah.
So and the more relief you feel is kind of, that's in parallel with like the amount of expectation and anxiety that you kind of felt. And I got a crazy sense of relief when this was done. But yeah, I think that there's definitely something to like, okay, your expectations of your performance or like what you want out of a situation will kind of be in correlation to like the level of anxiety and the level of like fear that you feel in a thing. So I always think about like a point of diminishing returns. So like, when is this fear and when is this anxiety reach the point of it's not helping you anymore, and now you're on like the decline and you're like going into a hole. So it was definitely interesting to feel those feelings in like a different kind of sense. But
yeah,
you're right, like it is good to sign up for those feelings and to overcome them, because I think that then you hit the relief at the end of it, and it's almost like the relief is what we're chasing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that reframe. And I think that fear, there's a lot of parallels in a lot of the stuff that we do too, you know, like, and I always think sometimes people put things on, that guy's got natural talent or whatever.
That was me, dude. I thought that forever.
And it's bullshit. Like,
so
I have
wrong.
some of the friends that are the best snowboarders in the world. And the way I look at it is like, all right, you go build, you know, we build jumps in the backcountry and catch air, and it's really similar. Or we'll set a handrail up in the streets, and a lot of times, like, dude, to get yourself to do this shit, it's not like safe. It's kind of scary. There's a lot of consequence. You get really fucked up. And the greats and people that do it for a living that are really good at it, it's not that they don't feel fear. It's that they force themselves to work through it. You know, and people like to blame that on natural talent. Oh, this guy's just got natural talent. No, I was with my friend Bodie. He was fucking scared. He did the double cork on the jump anyway. You know what would be easy is to do a frontside 360 on the jump. But he fucking was like, all right, it's a lot less scary to do a front 3 than a frontside 10 double cork. But he did the front 10 double cork, you know, and we all have that ability, but it's the greats that are able to work through that and obviously build your confidence and your skills to get there as well. But
dude, Berriman is the man for that.
Yeah.
Like so Red Bull Imagination this year, I rocked up literally right as McNiles was getting choppered out. And so like we went to park, and then the chick's like, hey, don't park here, there's a chopper coming. And I was like, fuck, like let's not do this. And then I was like, who is it? Blah, blah, blah. McNiles got hurt, airlifted out, and then Berriman's like, hey, do you want to roll back to the barn with me? So we jumped in the car, we rolled back to the barn, and I was like, hey man, you all good? Like, is everything okay with, you know, what went down? Are you guys still going to practice? He's like, yeah man, I'm going to hit that 180 after I'm going to go do an ice bath, and I'm going to get some food, and then I'm going to go back and I'll hit the 180. And I'm just like, bro, you just watched your friend get fucking helicoptered out of here on the 150. And it was mindset.
Yep.
You know, and he's like, dude, I know what I'm doing. Like, this is what I said I was going to do. And it was not a lack of fear. It's exactly what you said. It wasn't that there was not fear in his mind, but it was the level of commitment that he had to his craft and to what he wanted to do was more important to him in a sense. And it was like he'd made a commitment to himself and he'd made a decision, and then he was going to take the appropriate steps to work through that to get the result that he told himself he was going to get. And I think that, yeah, it's not a lack of fear. It's an abundance of commitment.
Yes.
And it's like this personal commitment that he made to himself. Dude, I was going to go for a run this morning, and I kind of like slept in a little bit, and then I was just like, I probably won't have time between now. I'm probably just going to run later. And then I was like, it gets dark early now. that's the difference. You know, like there's just that there's people out there, and you would know a whole lot of them, and you'd be one of them yourself, where it's like the level of personal commitment that you have to, like, I guess, honoring the thing that you have in your head, or honoring the decision that you made to do this on this particular time at this particular day. That is the difference in people. And I was one of those people, and especially before this podcast, like before I had hundreds and hundreds of conversations with the most gnarly motherfuckers on the planet, I was a natural talent person. And when I was a kid, I would think, I'm not naturally talented. I'm not naturally talented. My brother's way more talented than me. And it's like, my brother just used more fuel.
Yeah, totally.
Like, he just burned more fuel.
Yeah,
you know?
I think about that too. Like, I hear the shit with Axel sometimes, and I'm like, dude, you could give me fucking $20 million and a private training facility and all of the resources. I will never be able to do what that guy does. And so you got to give credit where credit's due. But going back to the working through fear thing, I think it's interesting stuff to talk about, because let's say in snowboarding, you're thinking about hitting a big jump, right? I think a lot of the anxiety lies in the, should I hit the jump? Like, should I go off of this thing? Fuck, it's big. Do you think I got it? That. But the minute that you're like, okay, then you make the commitment, still scary. But the moment that you turn your board sideways and you drop in towards the jump, the fear goes away. I think I'd imagine Tyler says the same thing. Like, the moment that he turns his bike and points it towards the fucking jump, the fear goes away. It's the thinking about it that is like causes way more strain, and the indecision causes way more strain. You know, that's where I think all the anxiety lives. And then once you actually do the fucking thing, and then again to add to that, I remember, you know, when I was peak snowboarding, when I was in it, like I filmed the X Games Real Snow part, and that was when I was like really locked in. And I just remember like my drive to get the trick far outweighed my fear of getting hurt. And in addition to that, like, even if I got hurt, it still felt better to be driving home, fucking icing my shoulder or whatever the fuck I got hurt than the pain of not trying it when I knew I could do it. And so I think that I'm sure Tyler has some of that going on as well.
Yeah.
Like, you want it so bad that nothing's going to stop you. You know, look at a fucking drug addict, like, right? Like how bad do you want it? Like, if somebody's a fucking full-blown heroin addict, they got no money, they got no house.
They're getting drugs.
They're getting their fucking drugs. It's the same when you're trying to get a clip snowboarding, you know? Like, you'll find a way if you want it bad enough. I think there's some, you know, that's something that always resonated with me.
Dude, I completely agree. And I started saying a couple of years ago that you get what you want. You just aren't always honest with yourself about what you want.
Yeah.
In terms of the way you talk to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you're overweight, you want to be overweight. You don't want to say that to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that's fucking hard to have that conversation. Like, people are sick, and there's you go to a doctor, and a doctor says, hey man, like, you've got this fucking heart condition. If you don't change your diet, and if you don't change your lifestyle, then like, you're gonna die. You'll have a heart attack. That's just how this works. And then you keep eating the same way, and you want that. You want it. You might have a conversation with your wife that says you don't want that. You might have a conversation with yourself that says, I'm going to do it, but you don't want it. Like, you get what you want in your life. And, you know, like, the drug addict is a perfect example of, like, they want to do the drugs. Like, they are going to get the drugs. Tyler Berryman wants to be one of the gnarliest dudes in the world on a dirt bike. Like, he fucking wants that. And it's that same level of well, I guess it's like, I think a lot of people might not be really clear about what they want 100%. On their life, you know. And I had my first like time in America. I wanted to be like a movie director. I wanted to write, like, that's why I kind of came here, and I was doing the action sports filming, and then I started doing some music videos and commercials, and I just didn't get it because I didn't want it. Like that was the thing that I said I wanted. That was the story that I kind of believed. Yeah. But the actions that I took in my life did not line up with that, you know? So I got exactly what I wanted. Totally. And then when I found this, I fucking did it. You know, like the level, and it'd be the same with you with the, you know, the stuff you've been through, but like the level of shit that I've put up with in my life, the level of discomfort, the level of, like when you said, where do you live? I'm like, I don't really live anywhere right now. Like that fucking sucks,
Yeah.
you know? But I want this. I really enjoy this. This is something, like I've found something here. And it's like when you find what you want, or when you're honest enough to admit what you want, then I think that's when things are really possible. And I can be completely honest and say, I don't want to win races that,
Yeah,
I
totally.
don't want it. Like
Yeah.
at Glen Helen this weekend, I didn't want it that
Yeah.
bad. Like there's other guys, and that's fucking rad. Like
Yeah.
go you guys, you know? But it's like, I can't lie to myself and say that I'm going to do anything to win a fucking race. I'm not. I
100%.
don't want it that bad. I have
100%.
other things I want.
Dude, yeah, I love that. And I think that it's really cool when you hear people like Jim Carrey who've like done everything, and then they're like, hey guys, it's not here. And I've had some experiences like that in my life. I remember, you know, like my whole career coming up, I was, you know, pro snowboarder, got last part in a major video. And then the next year I filmed X Games Real Snow. I won gold, got a crazy bonus, filmed a great video part that year, tons of like just on top of my game, the best I've ever ridden, making more money than I've ever made. And I'm at the quote unquote, for me, it was kind of the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
And I was looking back down and I was miserable, dude. I was like, hey guys, like I almost want to be like, it's fucking not up here, guys. Like I've chased it and it's not fucking here. And then, you know, I was doing more drugs than I've ever done. I was boozing, I was partying, I was miserable. And I think it was like, you think like, oh, once I achieve this, then I'll be happy. Once I hit that, then I'll be happy. And it's actually like it sounds fucking corny, but it comes within in a sense. And it's like, oh, I want to be happy. Once I get the house, I'll be happy. No, actually, once you get the house, you'll have fucking more bills, which will be more stressful.
Yeah.
It's more about like, how do you want to feel? How do you want to feel? Do you want what, like a real goal is like, for me, I'm chasing inner peace.
Yeah.
I'm chasing happiness. I'm doing things that align with my inner peace.
Yeah.
Right. And like moto brings me great inner peace. Before I was chasing validation.
Yeah.
And I was chasing approval and, you know, filling an insecurity void of some sort. We're getting really into the fucking weeds
No,
here.
I love it. Keep it going.
Yeah. So I think that part of it is more like the happiest guy wins. The most peaceful guy is the guy that's winning. Like the guy that's fucking hanging sheetrock that is happier than everybody else is much happier than the guy that's got, I know more miserable rich people than I know fucking happy people that got 2 cents to rub together.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's all mindset. You know, the stuff you're talking about, the mind is so powerful, and I get really into, you know, like I'm a big surrender guy, you know, like it's like, oh, you're like, something bad happens to you, well don't fight that. Like if you accept it and try to find why did this happen to me? Well, it taught me, what was the lesson here? Oh, it taught me. And then you go through bad relationship, then you meet the person of your dreams, and those are all learning lessons along the way. You know, death, great teacher. You know, you lose somebody, you realize how precious life is. You know, death is the best teacher. When you lose somebody close to you and you're like, shit, man, I only got a little bit of time in this meat vessel here. Yeah, I gotta I gotta get it in while I'm here, because it goes like that. And what do I want to do while I'm here? I want to fucking be happy. Huh? You know, I don't know where we're going. I'm just kind of rambling.
No. What when you like? No, I fully relate. Like I spend so much of my life. I'm like massive into meditation.
Yep.
Like so that fully changed my life.
Yep.
Like I'd say probably like 2019. I had like a huge shift where that clicked on that level, and really like ego, like understanding ego. And then ever since then, my life has been, my first priority is just basically like trying to look through my ego and see like, where's the ego in this? Where's the ego in this? Where's the ego in that? Like, and try not to be hard on myself, because it's just, we are an ego.
Yes.
You know, like that's you interface with the world with your ego. Yeah. And you can be a real successful ego. You can be a real shitty ego. You can be real extremely humble, like naturally. We all have a bit of a default state that's a result of our life.
And it can be good in some circumstances.
Well, and you need it. You can't win a competition. You can't be a professional snowboarder without having some sort of ego. Like Hayden Deegan has a crazy fucking ego. You know, you hang around Jet and Hunter Lawrence, they have a crazy ego in the sense of they want to win like all the time. Everything's a competition. When I do jiu-jitsu, I'm like 0 dark 30. Like there's nothing in my eyes. Like it is dead. And that's like ego, you know, you're in some zone fucking doing like, I don't care who it's against, whether it's my fucking wife or whatever. It's like, I'm going to that place. There's something that's there ego wise that I fucking have that competitive kind of desire, right? So it's like, how do you, again, it's diminishing returns. Like, how do you understand your ego to use it as a tool? And the first podcast with Berriman, I said, your ego is like a hammer. You can hit some cunt in the head with it, or you can build a house.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a tool to be used and understood. But I think that probably what you're talking about when you most successful, most money, top of the mountain, unhappy as fuck. You probably just didn't understand your own relationship with ego. You probably didn't understand your own ego. You didn't understand the role that it played in your life. Like, and a lot of times I think, and this is why I think you get to like 27, 28, 29, you've kind of just like lived as an ego. Like that's it.
Yeah.
You've only lived as an ego and you haven't had something kind of like break the mirror in a sense. And then it's like, I know some people that didn't have that happen until they were like 40.
Yeah.
And then they just didn't have the tools to deal with it. Like a friend of mine had a really rough breakup. He was like, 38, 39. The coolest cunt in the world. Hot. Fucking get all the chicks that he wanted. Won all these races. Was the fucking man. And then he got dumped by this chick. And it was literally the first hit to his ego in his life. Watched it in real time. And it was really, really hard for him to recover from, you know. But yeah, so I guess when you were in that zone, you'd probably just never really had to stare your ego in the face.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, I mean, life, it's like some of the times the best thing that happened to you is when life kicks you in the balls.
Fuck yeah,
100%. But in that point, you're on this arc. You get paid well into six figures early in your 20s, and you're making money. I bought a Cadillac. Like I was driving around. Like people are telling you the shit, and you think you're
believe
the shit.
it.
You believe it.
There's no evidence to the contrary.
There's no evidence, and you're a fucking dickhead. And people met me back the day. They're like, "Man, you were a fucking dickhead." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I was. I got no argument." Yeah. But then, you like a girlfriend leaves you. That's great, right? You need a cut, or you get?
No, is it good? Is it
it's still going. Yep. So yeah, for example, where it's good is when you're strapped in on top of a rail or a jump, and you're like, I'm supposed to be here. I am that guy.
Yeah.
Where it's bad, like the ego loves to be right. So if you're in an argument and you're so close-minded, that's ego, and the opposite of that, that's not going to work in a relationship. Yeah. Open-mindedness is kind of the opposite to the ego in a lot of senses. And that's huge, but you don't learn any of that stuff until you get older. I would throw a rec on here with all this ego talk. I read Ryan Holiday, Ego's Enemy.
Yeah.
You read that?
Yeah.
Great fucking book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've spoke about it a bunch of times, so for people that have heard the story, fucking apologies. But I had a moment, so there's another book if you like reading that sort of stuff, Waking Up by Sam Harris. That's the book that fully just changed my life. But I was in the studio, and I built this really dope studio in Australia. We got a warehouse, and I was like, fucking, I'm going to build like the Joe Rogan of Australia studio. And I'm in the studio, and it started doing good, and I remember I'd done a show, and I was thinking like, I kind of said some shit, and I was like, it made me sound fucking lame. Like, and my whole goal was to not look like I had an ego. And then I was like, I read Ego is the Enemy, and I read Waking Up, and I'd been meditating for a couple years, but I'd say unsuccessfully in a sense. And then I kind of just, all of that whole ego talk, and then it made me concentrate on not wanting to have an ego. And then I just literally had like a fucking bam, like a hammer to the face. It's all ego. Mm-hmm. Like wanting to not have an ego is about the most egotistical thing that you could possibly do. And it was like a full, like a ego death, like a drug ego death, And from then on, like, it just fully changed everything. Like, it changed the way, like, meditation started getting a little bit better. And then I got on that path of, I guess, life become a meditation in a sense of, like, where is the ego in this? Because if you are successfully meditating or whatever, it's like you can see through the ego. It still comes, everything still comes up the way that it comes up. You still have the thoughts that you have that are very egotistical. But if you're not identified with it, if you're not this like one-to-one, if you know you're not your ego, and then you can start to live through that way. But until you kind of have that moment, and no one really does teach you. I think it's obviously getting a bit more prevalent these days, but
well, people can tell you a million times until you live it. It's like sometimes you just have to go through shit, you know. And I think that's important. One in particular that comes to mind was I rode for Monster for a long time, and I got dropped. Kind of, to me, it felt out of the blue. I felt like I was still doing great on my board and all that stuff, and I realized my sense of self-worth was highly attached. So tied to me being a pro snowboarder. And so when somebody tells you you're not valuable, then you get into that. Your ego just starts fucking, you start wrestling with that. I am worth it. And then you got to go inward. And all the answers are inside. We have them all. They're all in. It's the external world doesn't make our, if everything doesn't have to be perfect in our external world, that's not going to make us happy. It's internal. If you believe you're happy, if you believe you're peaceful, if you are peaceful, then nothing can rock you. But when you need things to be a certain way to be okay. Then all of a sudden, when things aren't a certain way, but humans are naturally inherently narcissistic. We think about the world and how it pertains to us. Yeah. What do I want to eat today? Yeah. Where do I want to go today? Where do I want to, and that's natural. That's just natural for survival,
The best way or one of the easiest ways that I've ever heard the ego described is basically the ego is there to get you more of what you want and less of what you don't. So like if you're a person that's listening to this and it's not something like it's thoughts you haven't really had that much before, like that's probably the easiest way to think about it. And that goes directly to what you said of like, what do I want? Like it's the external world. So we have like this internal world, we have this internal dialogue, this internal conversation. That's the ego. Like that whole
sense of self,
that whole clock that's running and the conversation that's going like, fuck, I'm tired, I don't really want this, or I'm not going to go for a run, or fuck my diet, I'm going to do this, or fuck that person, that they shouldn't have said that to me, like they can't talk to me like that. So any of the more of what you want, less of what you don't, like that's like the easiest kind of way to decode it in a sense. And me and my wife would talk about it all the time, but sometimes I say exactly that to her. Just like, just let the moment is what it is, man. Like the world doesn't give a fuck about you. Like there's all this shit. You go back to rewind to the Big Bang. Just fucking hit rewind on the universe at 1 million light years a second. And then it's like that starts and all this shit just happens. And like at the point that the causal structure that's affecting you right now started was millions and millions and millions of years ago. Like no one gives a fuck. Yeah. It's just not, this isn't personal. It has nothing to do with you. Yeah, this isn't personal. This is happening to you because you were born 30 years ago in this exact place on this exact time and you've fucking walked your life. It is what it is. Like just release any of the, like what you're holding on to of what you wish the world was or what you wish the world wasn't. Because it doesn't fucking matter. Exactly. Like you can't control that. What you can control is your reaction to that thing and letting it go in that sense. It's like you just kind of have to give up the struggle.
Yeah. And what you can control is going and throwing a leg over and hammering a 30 and then all of a sudden none of the problems are problems anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's the biggest fucking key to all of this. And when you're riding, like when you're doing a 20, when you're surfing, there's all these times in our life where we fully step out of our ego and it's forced, right? Yep. And so you don't think that it's, there's an association of like, oh, I'm happy when I ride my dirt bike, or I feel good when I surf, or when I'm skating, or when I'm getting fucked up with the boys. Because you're like situationally removed from your ego. Like that's what flow state is.
Yeah.
The conversation stops. There is no ego. You're just doing. Like your body is doing its thing and you're just a witness. Like you're just experiencing the thing that's happening. But it's like, that's an available state of consciousness.
Yes.
At all times.
Yes.
Like you don't. So we are so conditioned to seek out these activities that they do that to me. And so you have like this relationship with snowboarding, or you have this relationship with moto, or this relationship with partying, or this relationship with Netflix. Like you can sit in Netflix and not have any thoughts in your head, not have any of that ego present. But I think a lot of people don't understand. It's like that's available 24/7.
It's available walking your dog. It's available at any moment. Yeah.
Conversations with a person.
100%.
Like, you know, being present with people. Like there are so many ways in which it is available.
Yeah.
You know,
but you're battling nowadays in society. It's just trickier because these mobile stress devices we have in our pocket, aka the cell phones, which are beautiful because you get to FaceTime your loved ones, and the technology brings people together in a lot of ways, and you listen to podcasts on them and music. But a lot of times the social media apps are just there to take you from this present conversation into, let me just fucking get a quick little
hit.
Let me get a little quick hit, and then you're out of it. You're back to
hole.
you're back in the scroll hole, and there's no scroll hole, you know, on the motocross track, or you know, walk it, you know, or whatever, you know, doing anything.
Well, and it's, I think when you realize too, like, I think people are realizing more and more these days that society is not set up to help you, in a sense. Like I remember growing up and thinking like, go to school and you get a job, and it's like society wants you to be good, and you know, like that you're going in this direction. But there's so many ways in which like we're just a consumer. We're just like buy this new thing, update to this iPhone. You know, Instagram is all about like, dude, I recently just had to do a huge cull of my Instagram following because there was just pussy everywhere, and I'm fucking married. And I'm just like, bro, like this is not cool. Like this is not cool that I'm just being shown pussy 24/7. This is not helping my relationship. This is not helping my fucking mental state. Like this isn't cool. And it's the same as any ads that you get for, you know, whether it's new fucking clothes or whether it's new this or this new car or you need this new, it's like if you understand that society's set up a certain way, and you can you should be able to choose when to like dip in and out of that. Like, hey, bike parts, let's fucking go. Like there's something there for me. Like I love watches as well, you know? So it's like, I have something there, but everything else, like, let's fucking dip out of this. Let's understand that you're there to be made money of in a pretty massive way when it comes to, you know, just generally walking around in your day-to-day life, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And going back to, you know, sometimes thinking about like, you know, when you truly love something, like I actually think some certain things can help bring you joy.
Yeah.
You know, like I'll just say this, for example, you know, a snowboard, a skateboard, you know, my dirt bike, like those things enhance my life. They add to my life. So there are things you can buy that add to your life.
For sure.
You know, and there's a lot of things that don't. However, you know, my life is, and you could argue that you could probably get that too without any of that if you went deep in meditation.
For sure,
or,
you
know,
can,
100%. But for me, fucking dude, I walk by the bike on the stand and I see it on my way out to my truck in the morning. I'm like, God, that thing looks good. I got a fucking 6 cans SC1 on that son of a bitch right now. You know, you know. So like even I would even always tell my lady, you're like, well, even if I was hurt and I couldn't ride, I'd still want a bike on the stand in the garage. Yeah. Because it just looks good. Yeah. And I love it. It's the same. There's like the people that buy the car to fill the insecurity, and there's the people that buy the car that know everything about the way it was made, and they fucking love it. You know? So.
No, I completely agree. And I think that it's coming down to just like being intentional about your life.
Yeah, I like that.
And I think that's like the thing that I try and keep top of mind, because you can kind of get caught in that trap pretty easily. So it's like, I know the things that add to my life, and I know the places where I'm like fully down to spend the money and to like, because it kind of is adding to that, you know, satisfaction or whatever. But yeah, I just think it's like that general awareness of like being super intentional about like where you spend your time. Because you think about like life is about attention. Like you have the ability to pay attention, and what you pay attention to is pretty well correlated to like where your life will go, you know. And I think that when you talk about like the fucking stress devices in your pocket, it's like they're kind of designed in a way to maybe divert your attention in a sense, you know. So it's like, what are you paying attention to? Who are you paying attention to? That's kind of going to be who you are.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I like that a lot. And what you do, and it's hard. We have to work to pay bills, and that gets stressful. But when you're like your truest self, I feel like we're fucking awesome beings, right? We're incredible beings, and when we're doing the things that really like fill us with joy, whether it's spending time with your kids or it can be anything, you're kind of like, when you're overflowing with joy, it overflows into other people.
Hell yeah.
It's like, that's what I get off my dirt bike and I'm like, I don't know what's funner than that. I get off my snowboard, I don't know what's funner than I'm like myself to my truest, and sometimes work can drag you down.
Yeah.
And I like that when you put your attention towards the things that bring you great joy, I think you can overflow your bucket into other people's shit. You know?
Oh, that's such a cliche saying, is like you can't fill from an empty cup.
Yeah.
It's so fucking true.
Yeah.
It's like insanely true. Like there's a effect that you can have on people. Like, so dude, Tyler and Steve rocked up at the race on Saturday, right?
Yeah.
And so we had 3 20-minute races like back to back. Bro, I was coming off the track dry reaching because I had so much fucking dirt in my throat.
Yeah.
I couldn't get my helmet off. I got fucking snot bubbles coming down my face and in my beard. I'm like fully hurting. And then I see those boys and the fucking vibe that they gave.
Oh
like,
my God.
Fully changed my entire perspective on like what my life was, you know. And that's 2 dudes that just rocked up and were fucking frothing. Like there's such a crazy impact that just a hugely positive vibe can have on other people around you.
Oh my God, you're going around the track, you got your buddy with the air horn, you're throwing anchor, all of a sudden you got more in the tank. Yeah, 100%. I like that.
When you were talking about like being at the top and being like miserable, what was the like disconnect there, do you think? Like when you look back on it now?
Well, it's interesting that you brought up ego, because I think that was a lot of it, because I was just doing a lot of self-serving activity. Like I thought the world revolved around me. You know, I was very self-seeking, and a lot of things that really favor that. You know, I was drinking a lot especially in the off season. You know, that because I'm 7 years sober. So.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So I drank. It's funny being a snowboarder because we're on salary year round. So we really only,
but you only have to work for
4
6
months out of
yeah.
the year.
Yeah.
So I would get my shit together in the winter, and, you know, I would go hard for 4 months. And then the minute, you know, winter kind of winded down, I would just immediately rage like a maniac. And I think there's some correlation between partying really hard. You know, the highs are really high in action sports, and you're chasing these peak life experiences. And I think that transfers right over to partying. Yeah. Because when you're boozed, you know, you get that same hit when you're boozing and doing drugs and stuff like that. So I think,
because you're kind of like pushing some limits.
Yeah, you're endorphins.
If you're doing it right.
Yeah, you are totally. yeah.
Like I've pushed some fucking limits. Where I'm like, whoa, this is not cool.
You're in a stranger's kitchen at fucking 7 a.m. Like, what am I doing?
Dude, some Armenian fucking drug dealers with like a pile of cocaine worth $400,000 and fucking 5 Armenian dudes rapping to Eminem, and you're just like, who and where am I?
100%. Yeah. And then I think, so for me, where I got to that point was I think I was just living an egotistical, self-serving life, and I had a bunch of concussions, and I was partying a lot. And at the end of the day, I think I just didn't like who was looking back at me in the mirror. I was just like, this guy's a fucking dick, you know. I don't like this guy. So then I just, you know, you know, when you're trying to quit drinking and stuff like that, you're like, all right, I'm not going to drink this week. And then fucking, you say that on Monday, come Wednesday, you have a beer with dinner. And then next thing you know, it's 5 a.m. again. And I was in that cycle.
That's a cycle, yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, I would always be drinking and doing Coke and stuff. So that I like my spaghetti with my meatballs. I couldn't just do one at a time, you know?
Yeah.
And so then, I don't know if I'm really answering your question, but I'm just kind of elaborating on that. And so, yeah, basically I just got to this point where I just didn't like who I was. And then I ended up, I bet my buddy $300 that I could quit drinking for a year. I'm like, cause I needed some type of, and if you really think about it, it's kind of prideful. Like, fuck it. I'm such a prideful prick that this fucking bet will get me through like not drinking for a year, which is what I ended up doing. And then, you know, I really just kind of went more inward instead of seeking for joy in external experiences. It was more just like, okay, I got to work on myself and my relationship with myself and who do I even like myself, right? And so then you go into that kind of space, and it was cool.
The addiction thing would be fucking gnarly to admit to yourself, and to then, like, there's a last time that you would have drank. There's a last time you did Coke. There's a, like, and to have that conversation with yourself, to be like, okay, I have an addiction. I have a problem. I can't do this. And then to actually do it, like, because I feel like I've probably got some shit in my life where if I never did it again, like, my life would be better. But it's very, very, very hard to, like, have that honest conversation and fully commit to that thing, you know?
Well, going back to like, for me, I hurt some people I cared about, right? So I had a lady I really cared about, and I was not good to her, and she left me. And so, you know, and it was because of my drinking and my drug use. And so that was like, oh damn, this is causing damage. I think it's really good to be aware. Like, are you a person that can have a beer here and there and shut it down? Or are you somebody that couldn't? My dad quit drinking when I was a kid, and we went from, you know, trying to make a body. He ended up starting his own company out of our basement, and he went from a guy that I fucking hated to a guy that I love. So I saw it, and he has this quote that he said to me that I fucking love. He's like, everybody has a quota. Okay. When it comes to boozing, you got a fucking quota. You're allotted a certain amount of beers in your life, and you can drink them over fucking 5 years or 60 years or 70 years. Right. And so for me, from like 16 to fucking 27 or whatever it was, like, I fucking ran through that quota.
Yeah, you drank all the beers.
And he was like, he basically says, he's like, once you hit your quota, you got two options. You either quit drinking or you fuck your life up. And he's from Massachusetts. You know, he's a hard-nosed motherfucker. So I always had that in the back of my mind, because I'm like, all right, you know, at some point, this fucking gravy train's going to end, because I'm flirting with disaster, you know? So, yeah, that was easy. I think I had a good role model in that sense, watching my dad quit drinking. And so it's always good. It's always good to check out if somebody's interested in, like, man, like, see how life feels with both of them, you know? I don't know.
No, it's cool, man. Like, I can imagine that would be a pretty, like, gnarly decision to make, in a sense. Or maybe it's just like a fucking hit and a jump, where it's like the indecision's the thing that's hard. It's like once you've committed and walking the path, maybe it changes once you actually make that decision.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. It is exactly like hitting. It's just committing. Oh, like, it's not like, oh, maybe I won't. I was just like, dude, I'm not drinking for a year. And then that year went by, and I was like, I feel good. Dude, I bought a cabin in the mountains. Me and my buddy split a cabin for $55,000 each up in the mountains of Utah. And I had so much anxious fucking energy from not boozing all summer, not drinking. We have, you know, I don't have it. Let me check my calendar for the whole summer. Oh, I got fucking nothing on there, right? Like, it's a great life as a snowboarder. So we ended up doing is building a skateboard park at our cabin in rural Utah. And I spent like every day 4 months just going up there, tying rebar. You know, me and my friends do concrete. I learned how to finish concrete. Ended up actually doing a small concrete business on the side after that. But so we built this whole skate park. But I think what it came from is, like, I was so uncomfortable in my own skin that I drank so I would feel more comfortable in my skin, in a sense, right? So then I kind of went to do the things to make me feel comfortable in my own skin, and worked through, dude, I did all kinds of crazy shit. I've been on a crazy journey, like I did fucking ketamine therapy where they inject you with 4 grams of ketamine. You go to a whole nother place. I've done normal therapy. I've done all kinds of breath work and, all kinds of stuff with, energy work, and started going kind of on a more of a spiritual journey, and worked on, releasing some stuff, like sometimes you do just simple breath work, guided breath work. I've like thrown up into a bucket from breathing heavy, know? Yeah. Cause I went back to some shit when I was a kid that I thought I didn't even realize was a thing that happened to me. And you start working through that stuff. Next thing you know, you're like, damn, I've been holding on to some shit. A lot of the like uncomfortable stuff comes from something that you were holding on to from when you were a fucking kid. You've been holding on to all of a sudden you let go of some of that shit, and you're like, damn, I feel lighter, and
Dude,
so
real.
it's kind of cool to go on just, I like sniffing out the mystical stuff sometimes and just seeing what's over there, and some of it works, some of it doesn't, but yeah. Man,
it's so fucking true. Like I kind of like recently had some, like it's hard to say like rock bottom, but like definitely like an aspect of my life, I kind of like bottomed out, and it was like, and it kind of came from something that, when I really looked at it, I was like, damn. I ended up having a conversation with my mom. It was about something I saw when I was a kid, basically. Yep. I kind of had this thought, like maybe like a year or so ago, like 2 years. I was like, man, like, I had that memory, and then I was like, that's kind of fucking gnarly. But I could remember it super clearly, and it took me up until recently to like kind of talk to my mom about it, and I was like, hey, kind of like had this memory. I feel like it fucked me up. Like now that I'm like married and me and my wife are like having all these, there's a lot of conversations. There's a lot of like, when you're with someone and that it's it, you kind of do a fair bit of work with that person to make sure that it stays it, and then, yeah, like it kind of really fucked me up in a sense. Like it brought a lot of shit to the front of my mind. It brought made a lot of things make sense, a lot of decisions that I'd made, a lot of like validation that I was chasing, a lot of like crazy insecurities and anxieties that I'd carried my whole fucking life. And then when I started talking to my wife about it and we started working through, like, it turns out that I probably just shouldn't have been worried about a lot of this stuff. Like a lot of the things that, like you were saying, uncomfortable in your skin, like I was really uncomfortable in certain ways, and there were some things that I was really insecure about that my wife didn't give a fuck about, and it was like just opening up, having those conversations, doing that work. Like the last couple months has been like really good in a lot of the areas that had caused me like a lot of problems in my life, but it sort of took to like having some really shit, like what I thought would be really shitty, hard, awkward, fucked up conversations that kind of just have made my life a fair bit better,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, going back to fear, those conversations are scary too, going towards those. It's just kind of the same thing. And, it's interesting as dudes, it's kind of like there's a bit of a macho culture in the sense like, be a fucking man, don't talk, don't whatever. And I think that, I mean, in some ways I look at being a man, this thing like is scary to take a look at. Well, fucking hit the jump. Go towards it then, right? That's kind of being a man. And I think that there is like, yeah, there's a fine line. Like there's definitely like some people that take the role of the victim pretty aggressively and, use that. And I think it's like our parents' generation was just like, we fucking just bury everything and don't ever bring it up and whatever. And then we're cracking open a little bit. And then there's a young generation where it almost the pendulum swings a little too much.
Way too far.
Way too far.
I went to a Doja Cat concert Monday night and I saw that.
Totally. But it's all fun stuff to talk about and go towards and whatever.
Yeah, but it made me think a lot about like addiction and that whole, yeah, just like you've got to make a choice. It's like a commitment in a sense too,
I'll say this. So I did 2 years of AA. My second and third year of sobriety, that really helped me in those years to kind of like figure out what was going on. I don't really go anymore, but it was wildly helpful in the early years. But all of the people that were like really fucked up that kept coming back in the rooms over and over again, like every one of them had some fucked up trauma that had happened to them. Something fucked, right? Like when they were a kid. Like the person that just couldn't, they just kept falling off the horse and getting falling off the wagon and get run over by the wagon 40 times.
Dragged.
They're getting dragged.
You know what I mean?
We all have friends that we could probably think of like that, right? And it's like, but a lot of times, you know, the people that are in that space, it's like, it's something like when you're a kid, you know, went through, whether it's seeing somebody like die or, you know, whatever fucking crazy trauma happens to your kid, and you don't until you kind of take a look at that, it's gonna be some baggage you carry around with you everywhere you go. So it's like we got these, you know, it's kind of cool to just like unload a couple things from the backpack here or there, get your power to weight ratio up a little bit, and then your lap times are looking better.
Well, and I think that's probably what I've learned as well about like being in a relationship.
Yep.
Like that, a good relation, like you're engaged, so you're kind of in that same headspace, obviously, but it's like a good relationship is a relationship where you can kind of work through that with people.
Yeah.
You kind of like my wife, she's fucking Russian. Like she was born in like a village in fucking Russia, basically. Like, so she's seen some crazy shit too. And, you know, there's like this process that you go through with a person where I'm just like, okay, I just fully have to like accept her and this person. Like she's this person because of like all of these things. And it's like over the last 4 and a bit years, like we've just been working through a lot of that sort of shit. And it's like, you kind of need to, that's a great thing about a relationship is like, okay, you can have a person that you can almost do therapy with. Like we almost do therapy together, like most nights, you know, where you're just having these conversations about those things, because like you don't realize maybe how impactful certain moments were in your life and like how much you were holding on to certain things. But yeah, it was just like in that moment you just go, it all just comes out. I was like, holy I did not realize that like I needed that, or I needed to actually feel all that shit.
Yeah, it needed to come up.
Yeah, because you do just go through life like, and especially as a dude, just being like, yeah, fuck, some shit happened, you know? Yeah.
Well, and if you also like, however you feel is normal. But normal can be a variety, you know, normal can be like running at full anxiety, full stress, 24/7. Normal can also be like peace and happiness, but whatever you're familiar with is how you feel. You don't know any different until you know, unpack the backpack. We're getting into some fucking therapy talk, but it's fun stuff to talk about. I enjoy talking about it. And I even think about too, and maybe this is a little bit different because it's PTSD, but you know, when people say it's like bullshit to like that we store experiences and store them in our bodies and stuff like that. Like think about, you know, a Vietnam vet that goes over, you know, and all of a sudden fireworks go off and they go into a full-blown panic attack. What is that? You know, that's a stored experience in your body. Yeah.
That's your nervous
comes
system.
Up. Yeah.
That's like, and that's where you realize like, and I think that's what's cool with meditation is like, you realize that you're something else before your ego. Mm-hmm. Like your ego is almost like the tip of the iceberg, you know, like the meme where you've got like the iceberg, what people see, what's actually
good
like
analogy.
Your ego is like just that top bit.
Mm-hmm.
Your nervous system is in control of all that shit. Mm-hmm. And you know, like that anxiety that you'd feel, or that PTSD, like that's a person that went through, their body physically went through something, like their nervous system, like every fucking neuron and synapse like experience that, and you don't have access to that as an ego. Like the ego doesn't control the heartbeat, the ego doesn't control blood flow, the ego, like there's so much that you don't have autonomy over. And yeah, that's where those things happen, is like it's stored there, it was happen, it's like burned into the nervous system, fireworks go off, and then it triggers that response in your body, because you're not your ego. We aren't like, we have a feeling that we're just looking through like windows in our head. No, that's not how this shit works. Like you're not back here looking through there. There's like light that's hitting your fucking retina that's then going through this optic nerve to your brain, and then that, you know, so we are not what we think we are, and that's why we don't have the level of control over those kind of experiences that we would think we do, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Holy shit.
We're fucking deep.
We just went to the depths. We went to the depths. That was fun. That was fun shit.
Should we talk about some lighthearted stuff?
Sure. Yeah. Let's do it.
How long have you been doing Bomb Hole?
3.5 years.
And what triggered that?
What triggered that? Well, a few years prior, I got the podcast equipment. I was going to do it, but I was still really in my prime. And I was like, I can't do both. And then, snowboarding started, there's these young kids, they're fucking insane. And I always felt as though, who doesn't want to have a podcast? It's fun. We're having a great conversation. There's a reason there's 2 million of them. And specifically in the snowboard space, we didn't really have a rock solid podcast. Like there wasn't the podcast. There's a few people doing it, but they weren't really doing it well, in my opinion. And then actually going back to all this stuff, like it's kind of funny thinking about it now. I was on a trip with my friend Eastone, who's no longer a part of the show, but I had the plans to start one, and I was like, who's going to be the co-host? Who's going to be Eastone? Do you want to do it with me? And we were in Kazakhstan, and then we were talking about it, and then I flew home, and I went to Finland, and then while I was home, I had I'm getting in the weeds with this, but whatever.
Do it.
Me and my ex-girlfriend were having hard times, and she ended up leaving. She's like, I'm breaking up with you. I fly to Finland, COVID hits. So it was really interesting. Like she moved all of her stuff out of my house. And then I flew back from Finland. It was crazy when COVID hit in Finland. It was like, everybody's got to leave the country. Like we changed our tickets at like 2 a.m. The airport's hectic. I'm over in Finland, northern Finland, trying to get back to the States. Got back to the States, and I came back to an empty house. And at that point,
like empty,
like not empty, but like
she took all her shit.
She made it. Like a woman makes a house a home. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'll sleep on a fucking air mattress on the floor. Yeah. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? But they make it cozy and stuff like that. Yeah. So like she basically left, and then I had like all this again, like anxious energy. Like I said, when I built the skate park, I had all this pent up angst I needed to put towards something. And, I basically just took all that, distracted myself with starting a show. So I built a desk in my garage. I got all the lights. I've always filmed and edited skate videos and snowboard videos my whole life. So I like built the whole studio, put it out. I got all the stuff going, figured out the names and all that stuff. And then it was COVID time. And so I just had all this kind of time on my hands. So we just dove right in. I think I was like, my way I went into it, I was like, we're going to record 25 episodes. We're not going to look at analytics. We're just going to go every Wednesday for 25 weeks. And that's all we're going to focus on, making good shows. We're not going to look at the outcome. And we recorded 4. And then one of them was my friend, Justin Benny, who he had kind of like disappeared for a while, and he got on some drugs. It was one of those like kind of, where is he now kind of guys. And he was a legend. He was on Nike, high paid snowboarder.
So kind of like J-Lo spec.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he came on. Shit, man, you got any water?
I'll go get you one.
Sorry, yeah.
I'll go get it.
Is that okay to cut?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if I wasn't sure about the cuts. I'm like,
okay, yeah. No, we're good.
I got a snooze in too, so I got to keep.
Yeah, I'll go grab a.
Thank you. What a fun chat. It's been fucking awesome. Yeah. Can I keep this on the desk or no?
Fuck yeah. Do whatever you want. You're the guest.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, we just go fucking wherever.
Yeah, I love it. It's so fun. Where are we? I guess it doesn't matter. Okay.
So your friend, J-Law Spec.
Okay. Yep. Hold on, I'm going to take my snooze out.
Just keep it on the desk if you're on, so good.
Keep it on the desk?
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. Yeah, so my friend Justin Benny came on. He told his story, and it was captivating. It was really powerful. I was like, damn, this to me felt like a good podcast. You know? And we put it out.
Like, so, objectively, that was rad.
I was like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, to me, it felt like we just did a good podcast. I don't know, though. Seemed like a powerful conversation. And so basically, we put our first one out. We had 4 in the vault. And I remember, like, it went crazy, man. Like, it was, I mean, not crazy, but crazy for our expectations.
Yeah.
Like 10,000 views, 10,000 listens, first episode, which I was just like, oh shit. And more people were hitting me up about this than like even videos that I had, some of my best video parts. And it felt like we were kind of filling a void. And so it was kind of cool. Like, we just hit the ground running and just didn't stop, really. So it's been super fun, as you know.
And then right at the COVID time too, you know, like the content was just crazy at that point in time, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And we had a captive audience, and I think there's a number of things that we had kind of intention with on that. Like, you know, one was like, if you listen to all of our episodes, we don't fucking talk about COVID the entire time. We don't talk about like any of, like, in my opinion, it was so polarized by 2 different opinions of, you know, sides, right? And it just made people it brought the worst out.
Yuck.
It brought the worst out in people, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, intentionally, like, let's just take a break from all the bullshit and talk about what we love. And then I think to add to it, you know, going through recovery and AA, I've sat in these rooms and I've heard people, you know, talk about their problems, and I'm sitting there internalizing all my problems. I'm like, holy fuck, this guy's got the same problems I do, and this guy's got the same problems I do. And I'm like, oh, we all got the same fucking problems, like, or whatever. So I was like kind of in this space where I felt as though, you know, taking that approach where people are real and honest and talking about shit they went through. And so I think I was good. And Ethan, you know, my ex-partner, was like, he's so fucking funny. You know, we had a blast. So yeah, it was cool.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think one of the things that I learned through doing the podcast was that, as well, like, people don't really have access to mentors. It's like the average person, you know, like you're talking about like I don't even really know how you'd say it. Maybe just leave it. The average person. They don't, like, you fucking Ken Block, like all the big names that you know and have access to, you're like on a level with those people, like a very human level. There's like very mutual respect. And when people talk in that way, that is something that not a lot of people have access to, you know. Like, for me to have a 3-hour conversation with you, a 3-hour conversation with Travis Pastrana, like, you're someone's fucking hero. And to just be on like a very mutual level with that person and have that conversation, like, that's a conversation a fan could almost never have, in a sense. So it's like, to give people that kind of conversation with their heroes every single week is such a crazy cool position to be in, you know. And I think that's kind of almost what shows like ours sort of do, is it's just, you bring people on like this human level and give them access to someone they would never actually get access to in a way that they could never have, you know. Like, I would say, if I have one fucking talent in life, it's not being starstruck.
Yeah, totally.
It's like,
well, that happens with the podcast.
Yeah. And I think you need that to do a good podcast, you know. And like a fan of, like, let's say you're a Travis Pastrana super fan, or a Ricky, like, you cannot have a normal conversation. Like, there's too much going on internally. Like, you're freaking the fuck out. So it's like, you actually, even if you got 3 hours, you couldn't have that conversation. So I think that was like one of the things I saw pretty early on, where I was like, oh, I could do this. Like, I could just have that normal conversation and give people this access that they just don't have otherwise.
And a couple things there, like, I was starstruck the first couple times I interviewed big name people that weren't my friends, and then I realized, I'm like, oh, these motherfuckers are just like me.
Yeah, it's the same
They're
shit.
the same. These guys are the same as me.
They want to be on your show.
They're like, and then all of a sudden you realize, like, whether it's fucking Shaun White or Travis Pastrana or whatever, like, as humans, we're all the same. There's no difference. And the thing that's we're so lucky to have as podcast hosts is, like, when I got a brilliant mind sitting there, and I got Ken Block sitting there, and who's, you know, was a dear friend after the show.
Yeah.
But, like, I want to pick his brain about marketing. I want to pick his brain about, like, if I got a fucking guy here that I can get some for my own selfish needs, like I'm curious. And I also think it's a superpower that I think a lot of humans don't realize is a superpower, is being genuinely interested in other people.
For sure.
Like we have so much, and we don't realize it, but it's a superpower. Like if you're really interested in other people, you're going to nourish these relationships with them, because they're going to be like, wow, this guy actually gives a shit what I say. He actually cares about what I'm saying. And that's something I think that as a podcast host, you end up, learning a lot about people and genuinely being interested. It's really fun.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And it's, I mean, I think we're super lucky to have the job that we have. Like, it's crazy that we live in a time where we can both make money doing something that I would love to do for free.
Yeah.
And the other thing I think about as well with like the podcast that I've tried to just leak into all of my life is like, okay, so I love this. Like, this is really fun. I get something out of this. You get something out of this. The people who listen get something out of this. It's like there's like a circle here of everyone kind of winning.
Yep.
And I started winning the most in my life when I started focusing on that as being you know what I mean? Like, that's first and foremost, is like, I want them to have a great experience. If the guest has a great experience, then the audience is going to have a great experience. That's why, like, I don't really care what we talk about. Like, we just went on a fucking crazy tangent. None of that's planned. You know what I mean? Like, none of what we just spoke about is something that we knew we were going to talk about. But you're like, this is a fucking great chat. Cool. I'm good with that. Yep. And it's like, I think then that's like leaked over into other places in my life, because I think that it's not very often you kind of get in this transactional relationship where everyone wins. Mm-hmm. I felt like a lot of times in my life before, it was either me trying to just like take from people, and not in a, I hope that doesn't sound wrong, but like, I've worked for a job. I'm just there to take money from that guy. Mm-hmm. I'll do the thing that he wants to do so that I get that money. And I wasn't really giving a fuck about him winning in his life in the most, like, the most extreme sense of it. Or, in relationships, you can be a little bit less thinking about the other person. So it really did change the way that I looked at like what a successful, I don't know, venture is like, is everybody winning here? Mm-hmm. Like, and if you can lead from that, like I've really started trying to lead with that, you know?
Yeah, that's great. That's great advice. And I think too, coming from two avenues for me as a pro snowboarder, the whole fucking thing is like, check me out.
Yeah.
Check out my tricks.
Yeah.
Check me out. Whatever, right? The magazines are putting you in the thing. It's me. It's me. Which is great, because you don't really only have to rely on yourself, which is great if you're wildly independent person like I was. I'm actually trying to get away from that, right? And so then with the podcast, instead of people coming up being like, I like your tricks, they're like, I fucking know you, bro. Like, and you're like, and you're, or they're like, man, like I have a story that's pretty cool. Like we had Desiree Melanson on, a women pro snowboarder. She was really early on, and she talked about suicide. She had, got really deep real quick talking about suicide. She opened up about it. And I heard this story about, this guy told us about. So Lizard King, this guy was a skateboarder, right? And he's like, I'm going to listen to the Lizard King podcast that we did. So he listens to Lizard, and he goes out to the bar and he's like, I'm going to kill myself when I get home. And then he gets home, and the thing had auto-populated to Desiree's podcast. And it had gone right to where Desiree had talked about suicide. And so this guy, he reaches out to us and he's like, dude, thank you so much. Here's my story. This is what happened. Like, I think this really could have maybe saved my life or whatever. Or sometimes you hear, I talk about sobriety and people are like, I've taken a change. And I don't fucking push sobriety on people. I just share my experiences. Fucking have one for me. You know what I mean? Like, I can't,
Yeah.
But it's cool, instead of just inspiring someone through your tricks, or you can, our mantra, or not our mantra, our mission statement at the Bomb Hole is to build and strengthen the community through humor, authenticity, and common struggles.
That's so cool.
And it's just like, okay, is it aligned with that? Cool, let's do that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when did that, I guess when did you sit and write that? Like that's a very intentional thing to do.
Pretty early on. Yeah. Well, all of a sudden, you know, we had a few, you know, we had an editor that we were working with and shipping guy, and we wanted to, you know, I'm talking to my friends that have great successful businesses, and what should I do? You know, I like asking for advice, and they're like, well, you should have a mission statement. I'm like, okay. So I sat on that. Yeah. It kind of helps. You have a North Star where your compass can always be like, is this aligned with us? No. Okay, cool. We don't have to do it. And if it's not a fuck yes, then it's a no.
Yeah, dude, I love that, man.
Yeah.
Like that's such a good, that's such a great thing to have in your back pocket at all times. Like if it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no. And I've used that recently and like with some friends and stuff, like even little business things. Like, well, a good example, I got asked to do a podcast with a friend, like a very successful friend, and Amazon was like, we'll give you this much money, and I would have got half of it. There's more money than I would have had more money deposited in my bank account than I'd ever had in my bank account in my entire life. And I was talking to my friend, and I'm like, you're pretty fucking busy. Like, do you think that this is something that you want to do? Like, we're really good friends right now. Do you really want me calling you in different time zones, being like, we got to fucking do this thing? And I just fully like talked him out of it, in the sense of like, not talked him out. I said, this is the reality of this situation. And I just said to him, I was like, if it's a fuck yes, I'll do that. If you're not saying fuck yes, then you're saying fuck no. And he was just like, yeah, fuck no, I'm not doing it. And it was just like this instant, there goes like a fuckload of money for me. And I'm like, sweet. Like that is actually the perfect thing to do right now, because it ain't a fuck yes. Don't do the things in your life that your dick isn't rock hard for.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I also like to think about like intuition. I know that's a weird word for some people, but you know the answers. You know if you're supposed to do something, you know if you're not. You get clear on it. You know in your body, you're like, this feels right. I feel, but sometimes you try to talk your way through it.
For sure,
like, it doesn't feel right. But you're like, yeah, I could do this, I could do that,
and that's what he was. Right. That's what he was doing, and I could hear the tone. And he's like, we could do this, and like, but if we made it work, I'm like, brother, I fucking know you, bro. I know you. All right, this isn't a thing that like it was 40 something episodes, and I'm like, it's really fucking hard. To do that. Like I've done a lot of these, and it's like really fucking hard to do. So, you know, it's just like, have that. That's such a great thing to have in your pocket. If it's not a fuck yes, it's a fuck no.
Totally. Yeah, and that's another thing about podcasts too. It's like to do a consistent chasing your tail weekly content, like it takes a tremendous amount of effort to do it well, you know, and it's worth it. It's fun as shit.
Yeah. So business wise, you saw it as a business pretty much straight away?
Yeah, right away. Yeah, we ended up, you know, I mean, we did maybe 7 or 8 episodes, and they were like doing, like, it was crazy, you know, like it felt like my phone would blow up every time. And, you know, we kind of felt like it just disrupted the space pretty well. And then Ryan Runke, who's our agent, reached out, and he's like, I want to be your guys' agent pretty early on. And all of a sudden we had sponsors coming in, and, you know, and it's like, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. How do we, you know, what's an ad read? How do we figure out a value for that? And so it's really fun, you know. You think people figure it out with businesses, like these guys got it all figured out. You're like, nobody knows what the fuck they're doing. Everybody's just winging it, and then like you get better over time. But like at a certain point in time, you're just fucking winging it, trying to figure it out. And we just kept going. Now I think we have 6 employees, and we have like a pretty big office.
6 employees.
Yeah, because we have a shipping guy, graphic designer.
Yeah.
We have our producer Silk, who changes angles in studio. We have Jules is like our GM's, you know, COO. She's like always doing the emails and all that. So it's kind of this whole machine that. And so then now we have the power, like the bandwidth to kind of like rip shit up, you know. Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting to me. Like I don't have many people that I can talk to that have like a similar level of deal, you know what I mean? Like I think even you were saying like, let's do a fucking podcast.
Yeah, I've
been
like, wanting to call you and just pick your brain.
Dude, no, I love it. And it's the same, you know, it's the same for me. Like, so we got 2 full-time staff, 2 boys that it's cool. They both started working for me out of school. So they were both in 12th grade, moto kids. Like they just made moto edits. And so I'd see it come up on my Instagram. I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to like follow that kid and, you know, talk to him. But yeah, so they started working for us after. So I had Rones, the first dude that started working. He started working for me after school in 12th grade. And then I'm basically like, he started getting ready to finish school. I'm like, all right, what do you want to do when you finish school? And he's like, oh, I'm thinking about going to uni. I'm thinking about doing this. And I basically was like, all right, there's a full-time job here if you want it, and you can start whenever you want. Like if you want to go party for a little bit after school, then go do that. But if you want to work full-time, sweet. So he's been working full-time since literally the day he left school. He's like, fuck it, I don't need to party. I'll start work. So he's been working for us, and then one of his best mates did the same thing. So he was a year behind him in school. So like basically done. And then I've got a young chick that she's in college at the moment, and she's started doing some stuff because I feel like every business needs a chick.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Fucking dudes. It's just not,
oh my God.
You don't, too many dudes in a business.
Yeah.
Not fucking cool.
Yeah. We have Jules, who's our GM, and people ask me questions. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just work here. You guys got to ask Jules. She knows all the answers. She's like organized. You know, I'm a creative. I got fucking a million ideas, but they're all over the place. She's just like perfectly structured, like organized schedule, boom, 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 ad reads, this, that, and then I can just be a fucking idiot.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm wearing currently too many hats for the level of idiot that I am. So I'm like trying to get away from that. I would like to just, I fully acknowledge that I'm a fucking retard, and I need that. So I'm trying to set that structure up. Because yeah, there's a lot going on when you're doing this too, especially like consistently. I always wonder if you get this actually. Like people will always come up to me and be like, bro, you're fucking killing it. Like, dude, so good, like crushing it. And I'm like, the fuck are you watching? Like,
totally.
What do you see, dude? Because right now it feels like I'm just fucking chasing my tail around like an idiot, you know. But there's actually quite a lot of moving pieces in a business like this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for us, we have a bunch of ad reads, but the brands, you know, we do these deals like months before, and they want them on specific dates, and then you're recording. I record way out early, so I'm recording in October for something that comes out in December. And we got to have our ads coming. Yeah, I stack them up so then we can snowboard. I kind of like put them in the piggy bank, and then. But yeah, there's a lot of moving parts, but it's also, you know, the minute that when you're having fun, it shows. Like if like for us, I always like. I'm like, let's just be dipshits. You know what I mean? Let's just do what makes us happy. Let's do the things. It doesn't even really need to make sense, but it's you know, that's how I look at it, you know. And like, if you give somebody a feeling, you make them laugh, you make them cry, you fucking, then you tell a good story. It's great. Yeah.
No, it's definitely been one of the more rewarding things I've ever done. You know, and like I said before, like you kind of get what you want. Like I really want to do this. I really enjoy this. It's something like, my mum made like a funny comment in the car the other day, like, oh, God forbid you ever have to get a real job. And it's like, and I said to her, I was like, oh no, this is my last ever job. Like I'm actually not doing another job. Like it's this, and then I'm done. And I'm going to do this until the day that I want to retire, and then hopefully that's it for me, you know. But I think that it's something really cool about this space is you kind of can do it for a really long time if you're genuine, doing it for the right reasons, and it's keeping that in mind of like, I guess maybe if I was to have a mission statement, it would be like create a win-win-win for like me or like guest and audience, you know.
Yep, totally.
But it's like, as long as you're doing that, I just feel like it's something you can do for a really long ass time.
Totally. Yeah, I remember early on, my friend Hava connected me with this guy that did sales for a lot of the bigger podcasts. I think he worked for an agency that worked with like Rogan and Barstool, and I was just looking for some information. I never worked with him or anything, but he's like, he mentioned like Pardon My Take, Rogan, some other big podcasts. He's like, what do they all have in common? Like, I don't know. He's like, they're unapologetically authentic. And I was like, damn, okay, that's important. You know, you got to say what the fuck you think. You don't want some lobbed softball fucking limp dick podcast. Like that happens. Like people get on, I don't want to fucking say anything because I care what people think of me, and I don't want to like rub. It's like, no, just that doesn't be negative, but you just have to be your fucking self.
Say it with your chest.
You say it with your chest. Say it like you're in the lobby with your friends.
Yeah. You
talk the same way in the lobby with your friends as you do in the studio, and it works out.
Yeah.
But some people, they just fucking lock up.
Yeah. Well, I think too, like, you can, it's funny. So with this, like I got basically banned from the US. So like I had to go home.
Heard about that.
Yeah. And then
Tyler.
so then I spent 5 years at home basically, like trying to get back here. And, I couldn't go to any Supercross races. I was out of the scene completely, but had the biggest podcast. And so I was finding myself just saying whatever the fuck I didn't have to see anyone in the pits.
Yeah, good point.
You know, like I kind of didn't. There was like a no accountability. Oh, I don't have a media pass. Like, fuck it. I'm literally watching the race in the studio with my friends on the like, what the fuck? There's nothing. There's no consequences in a sense to that. And there would have been years where if I asked for a media pass at Supercross, they would not have given me one. They would have been like, sorry, bro, it's fucking over. But in the 5 years of like doing what you said, being authentic, saying what I actually believe, like I genuinely have the sport's best interests at heart.
Yeah.
There's shit I got wrong at times. I admit that. But it's like you actually get to a level where you can be undeniable in the fact that if Supercross, I ask for a media pass, they give me one because it's like, it's fucking big and everyone's listening and everyone. So it's like, and you can say what you want without that. And I think sometimes people pander because they don't want to be cut off, or they still want to get the media pass at X Games, or they want to be everyone's friend. But it's like, hey, if you're genuine and you do this right, you can actually get to a level that you're going to get what you want no matter what. Your voice matters, and you're like, people are going to hear you. People won't be able to shut you down. So it's like you can play the short game of like trying to say everything right. Don't piss everyone off. Don't piss off the industry. But it's like, that is actually the completely wrong way to look at it, because if you spend enough time being authentic and doing what you believe, then you're going to be able to do whatever you want.
100%. Yeah,
I feel
100%.
like you'd have that same thing where you can call shit out in snowboarding like in a way that other people will not do it, because you own the platform. It's your own name's attached to it, very visible, like fully accountable, and people would respect what you say.
Yeah. And I think like whether it's moto or snowboarding, like we need people that are in the space that live and breathe the fucking shit. You know what I mean? And like it's one of those things, like if you look at snowboarding, like Nike tries to come in, they don't make any money, they fucking bail. Adidas tries to come in, they don't make any money, they fucking bail. And what's left are the people that truly live it and breathe it and give a fuck about it and are dedicated to whether there's a paycheck or not, they're going and doing it. And I think that that's what you need, whether it's moto, whether it's snowboarding. And when it comes to saying what you think, like my whole shtick has always just been like, dude, say whatever the fuck you think. People aren't thinking about you. They might think about you for 5 minutes while they listen on the podcast. They fucking turn it off. They go back to thinking about themselves. Like just in your life in general. You know what I mean? It's just like people, if you're sitting there stewing over, oh, did I say the right thing? Did I say the wrong thing? Nobody's thinking about you.
Yeah, no one cares.
And so it's like, I think that I feel like that's how I view the world, is that I don't think anybody's thinking, really leaning over shit that I said. So you just say it. And then if you're yourself, what's really unique is when people are actually themselves. Yeah. When they're not trying to be somebody that they're not. That's actually the most unique thing you can be in this world, is yourself.
Well, and it's the easiest part to play. Like it's so much harder to be I guess like a caricature of yourself. Yeah. Or like try and, cultivate something. It's like lying. Like when you lie, then you live in a different reality to everybody else. Like there's truth, and that's where like everybody else is living. Yeah. And when you lie, you're living in your own little reality. And then everything that you think about is about like, oh wait, is that going to give up the lie? Is that going to fuck up the cover? Is that, or then you need to make up another story. So it's like when you're just yourself, it's fucking real easy to be that guy.
Let me tell you something that's hard though. I got a snowboard podcast. Okay. Moto comes up. The listeners, they don't want to hear about moto. Bro, I feel you. I can't be myself. I get in there and they're always like, dude, no, Chris, don't do the moto shit. And so that's sometimes where I gotta like be the I
You got to play the game a little bit.
I got to dim my moto light a little bit. You know what I mean?
But if it makes you feel any better, I have a jiu-jitsu light, and all I get is comment like. So there's like memes of me on the fucking internet where like somebody will like cut someone talking about like, oh, and then my parents sold everything, and then there's like someone's got a video and cut to me being like, yeah, dude, jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm just like, fuck. No one wants to hear it. Yeah. But so yeah, you are right.
Yeah, we gotta.
You have to play that. But hey, guess what? I don't give a fuck. Sometimes I still talk about jiu-jitsu.
Your passion comes out when you talk about it. You get excited. You jacked up. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, no, that's so funny. That's very, very relatable. I have to like really watch my shit sometimes.
You know, Troy, the guy that. That is our mindset person that Tyler and I work with. He'll be like, I noticed your excitement went way up when you were saying that. You should go towards that. And I'm like, it's so fucking true. If you light up talking about something, like it's like, well, go towards that.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking simple decision when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's cool shit.
I definitely love the business side of the podcast more than I ever thought I would, though. I wonder if you're the same, where it's like I work on this as a huge project, and there's like a couple levels where there's one part where I like to be distracted from the fact that I'm talking about like deep personal shit and putting it out to fucking literally millions of people on YouTube. But there's a real element of like, this is a really fun project of like building the business, building the brand, like optimizing, you know, like my last Slack message last night to my boys in Australia was like, hey, how's everybody's computers running? Because I feel like we're not making content fast enough. And if your computers are running slow, like you got to fucking tell me, you know? So it's like the project of the podcast as like I don't even know. I guess it is a business, but I guess it's like, I can go so deep on this thing and I can put so much energy, like I guess that nervous energy or like that angst that you were talking about, like this is such an outlet for me to just like pour all of that shit into it. And it's like details that, you know, you could not do that and the podcast would do very similar, but it's like there's something so fun and rewarding about that side of it. Do you have that same kind of?
110%.
That's cool.
And I think that like it's cool just having a flag in the ground, right? Yeah. Like this is my thing. This is what we've been building. And I heard a quote from Jeff Curl, who's one of the founders of Skull Candy. I think Stance Socks. But I was listening to a podcast with him, and he was just like, you know, a business is simple. It's just going. And this guy's made more money than anybody knows what to do with. He's got like one of the biggest houses in Park City. This guy's like done. And so I'm curious about his mindset. He's like, it's simple. You're just trying to get a group of cool people that you like working with and make something cool. That's it. Like he's like, all it is, I just love getting a group of talented people together and building something cool. And that's on a fundamental level, whether you're building a fucking suspension company or a snowboard company or a podcast, like bringing a cool group of people together or a talented group of people together and making something fucking cool. It's fun. Like I do Monday morning meetings, and they're an hour and we bring our whole team in, and I like Sunday nights, I'm like writing down motivational quotes and I'm rallying the troops, and I'm like, guys, here's our roadmap to go from A to B, and you know, let's have fun doing it. You know, we have a mantra, we're loose with intent. We don't take ourselves too seriously. Like we have good times. And so I'm growing with all our teams growing together, and we're just trying to have fun and build something cool. And I think it shows when you're having fun and you're doing something that you love. I think when you chase analytics, it shows. And when you do things authentically, it shows.
Yeah. What's some of the things that, or like advice you would give in this, like, let's say, well, just to me, I guess, let's just speak to like your experience of the things that you've done with the podcast. Like, what would be your best advice to somebody else that's got a business like, it doesn't even have to be a podcast, but just like business.
Invest in people. I think it's, you know, I think that's really important too, in like nourishing the relationships that we have in our life is so important with everything. You know, care about people. I think that's really important. You know, employees, it's like if you have employees, they're putting food on their table because of you. Like you get what you put out into them too. If you invest in them and you care about them, they're going to care about you and they're going to go 10x as hard, you know? So I think for the employee thing, I've always had this thing where this is pretty vague, but if the passion pours out of you, that's your North Star, you know, like follow the passion. And yeah, I think, just trusting yourself is really important. You know, we know what we want to do. We know from right and wrong. We know what the right answer is. It's not talking ourselves out of that sometimes, even if it seems ludicrous. Like you got some wild idea, but you're like, I don't know if somebody's going to think this or that. And you're like, but the passion pours out of you. It doesn't even need to make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like run through a wall smelling salts.
Yeah,
Like, let's
exactly.
fucking go.
Yeah. We started a smelling salt company. We got smelling salts on, we watch hockey.
Have you got any here?
You know what? I didn't fucking bring. That is so dumb of me to not bring smelling salts.
I had some.
Tyler,
I got some of you off Mammoth.
That was a rookie move. Yeah, Tyler is like a smelling salt addict.
Fiend.
Yeah, I talked to him last night. He's like, I bought 3 bricks. I already ripped through them. We just launched the brick. It's a 3-pack of smelling salts. So what smelling salts are? You crack them, you give a whiff. It's like ammonia. And it basically kind of like wakes you up for a second. It's almost like smelling a nasty bottle of liquor where you're like, ugh, like, you know, it's kind of
like 3,000 times more potent.
And we were watching hockey and I was like seeing all these hockey players hitting smelling salts. And me and my buddy Greg were like, we should get some smelling salts. Got them, did them on air once. Everybody loved it. And they kept doing them on air. Then we're like, let's start a smelling salt company as a joke, as a total joke. And it was like, okay, what are we going to call it? Let's call it run through a wall smelling salts because these things make you want to run through a fucking wall.
For those who don't need doors.
Yeah, for those who don't need doors, exactly.
Yeah.
And we start this smelling salt company and all of a sudden we're selling 7 smelling salts to every other product. And we're just like, they're flying off the shelf. We can't even keep them stocked. And it's a joke. The whole thing was a joke. And I think that's what's cool is like it shows we're having fun. We're being dipshits. And nobody's going to be like, yes, there's an emerging smelling salt market. We need to.
Yeah.
We're just being dipshits.
Yeah. No, it's so cool. And I think that is like really good advice. Like my version of that would be the bike builds.
Yeah.
I fucking love it.
Yep.
Like
exactly.
it spends so much time and it's so overkill. And I look at what everybody else in like that space would do. And it's like, we make them like this big elaborate story. And it's like, I'll fucking give the bike to this person a race. And then we'll go here with it. And it just becomes like this massive project. They always go fucking way later than we'll say that they'll be done. But like, I don't know, to me, I just fucking love that shit. Like that's such a fun, cool, therapeutic, like it's such a selfish endeavor, but this does awesome, you know.
But it's if other people are also enjoying it, then that's a good game. That's a win-win. Your audience is enjoying it. You're enjoying doing it. Yeah. I think one thing that's kind of a cool correlation between moto and snowboarding was I went to Day in the Dirt a few years ago. And I went to this event and I just was like, this is so fun. This is amazing. The fact that I'm on the same track as Josh Grant and all that, like I mentioned earlier. So we started an event called Bomb Hole Cup. And the premise being there isn't really events where your top pros and your beginners are all on the same platform. So we did day 1 as a bank slalom, which is just like a race, you know, it's a timed race. And so we had all these different classes. We had age classes like moto, and we did vintage boards, which is like vintage bikes. So I 100% stole that from Day in the Dirt, you know, or Mammoth or whatever. And so we had boards, you know, pre 1990 or something like that. And then we had skiers on boards. So if you're a skier, you can race, but you got to be on a snowboard. We have all these fun classes where it's lighthearted. We have a pro class that goes off. This year we're doing a beginner class, but the point being is that you have top pros racing, and then you have some guy who's only been snowboarding for 6 months racing, and they're all in the same corral at the top of the course. And then day 2 is a park showdown where we have a jump jam and a rail jam for, you know, open class. We have a Grom class, and then we have a pro class. So the point being is that you have everyone from, you know, Sage Kosselberg, who won the Olympics, to some guy that's been snowboarding for 2 weeks, which is what's so beautiful about seeing McGrath or Josh Grant on the track. For me, like that's what's so cool about our sports, when you can reach out and touch these heroes. And Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
No, that's so true. One thing that I always think about nowadays is, does it affect the culture? That's like so underlying and important for me. And I think, you know, when I look at the bomb hole, that's culture. Like, you now have like a permanent part of snowboarding culture. And as long as you guys want to do it, I mean, and the episodes that you've done will live on forever. But it's like, the things that really work and the things that really win are things that fully affect the culture. And when you talk about Nike and Adidas coming in, it's like, does it really affect the culture? Like, it kind of adds a bunch of zeros. Like, Hurley and Nike were the same in surf, you know, like Chloe and Dino and Julian Wilson just got like fucking crazy paychecks. And like, that kind of affected the culture in a sense of like what people made for a short period of time. But like, underlying, like, did it make the sport better? Like, does that leave this lasting impression that goes for generations? Like terra firma, bro. Steel roots. Cultural fucking moments that affected millions of dirt bikers around the world. And the effects are still felt now, you know? And I think that Day in the Dirt is such like it really affects the culture, like what you guys do with the Bomb Hole Cup. It's things that affect the culture. Like, that's the important things to do.
Totally. Yeah. And it's really been interesting to see the evolution in snowboarding, because snowboarding was a counterculture sport for a long time. And then all of a sudden the Olympics came into play. So we came from this like skateboard, surf, snowboard kind of counterculture. And then all of a sudden it's widely, you know, respected in, you know, snowboarding.
Kind of gets like gentrified.
It gets gentrified. So all of a sudden the kid that would never snowboard, they're like, dad's like, oh, Jimmy could get an Olympic medal.
Yeah.
Let's get him all the coaching we can, and let's get him, send him here. And it's like the like rich parents accept it for what it is, because they can justify it to their friends that it's a legitimate thing.
Well, Jimmy's got a chance of going to the Olympics in 2027.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then and then now it's really this polarizing thing in snowboarding, where you have all these kids that are, especially like China and Japan and even the States, and you go, and all the kids that are going for the Olympics are funded by the governments. The government's funding for their whole shit. And there's all these coaches with iPads, and they're doing like aerial training, and it has gone like, that part of competitive snowboarding has gone so far away from where we came, and it's unbelievable what they're doing. But we also need to remember why we fucking got into this shit, and it's because it's fucking cool. So I think it's important to make sure that we're still doing rad shit, you know, and still having the right people getting bolstered. And when you buy that, when you have the Olympics come in and all of a sudden Visa wants to be a sponsor and this guy wants to be a sponsor, it's great if somebody can secure the bag. No hard feelings on that. But at the end of the day, if you are buying products and that product goes into the pocket of a actual guy that lives and breathes motocross, you buy some Fast House gear or whatever, and it goes into Kenny's pocket. Like, you buy a snowboard that's owned by a snowboarder, that goes in. And I think keeping the ecosystem within snowboarding supporting snowboarding, moto supporting moto is really important. It doesn't seem like you guys have too much outside influence.
Nah, and it's a bummer. Like, it's funny because you want, like, I would really love the guys to get paid more than what they do, and that does take the outside. So there's such a balance that needs to be walked there, you know. And I think, snowboarding, you have the, like, Shaun White. I mean, fuck, how much money would he made in his life, you know? So it's like, we don't have that, and there's a big part of me that wishes we did have that. But then there's also, Jason Wygant talks about this really well, because I'm kind of like, there was especially a big period of time before the whole SMX thing where I was just like, riders need to be paid more, riders need to be, like, I just fucking went in on it for a long time. Riders ended up getting paid more with the SMX thing, and then I'm like, cool, that's right, Ty Masterpool can get fucking 80 grand for just rocking up and doing the last the 3 rate. That's actually really sick. But yeah, there is a level at which it's like, be careful what you wish for. Like, do you really want, like, NASCAR is so fucking lame now because it's all these crazy corporate, like, huge corporate sponsors, like Noah Gragson. I don't know if you follow NASCAR at all, but he literally got fired for liking a meme.
Really?
It was a bad meme, to be fair.
Yeah.
But, like, I would have, if you're the team, like, so it was a George Floyd meme basically that he liked, and then the team instantly clipped, done, fired, gone, and that's just corporate pressure. Like, if it was me and I was in that team organization, I would have just said like, hey, Noah, didn't you give your phone to your nephew who's only 6 at that time of the day? Like, it wasn't you that liked that, right? It was, I'm pretty sure you said you gave your phone to your nephew. Like, there'd be like ways to play it, you know, and deal with it in like, hey bro, like, it's fucking not cool. Like, if that was what you did, really not cool. We've kind of moved past that shit. But it's like, because of the landscape and the corporate world, it's like, see ya, done, you're fucked. Like, career fucked. And it's like, I just don't know that we want that in our sport, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, there's the old saying like, core is poor, which is true, you know.
I've never heard that. Yeah, that's really good.
And then there's also, but you know, securing the bag is great for, you know, honestly, like we had Sean White, and he's not even really a snowboarder in the sense that he doesn't associate with snowboarders, but he did introduce snowboarding to a lot of people, which is really good. And if as snowboarding goes, the snowboarding salaries go up, and if snowboarding is a sport that is profitable, the riders are going to make more money, and all that stuff's really good. It's just at a certain point, where does it become kind of causing damage? And I mean, I don't know. These are pretty tough socioeconomic issues, but yeah. I think when you're supporting people that at the end of the day, no matter what they're doing, they'd be riding moto, then I think you can't go wrong. Yeah.
So Sean White doesn't like consider himself a snowboarder in that sense?
He's like wildly famous. Like we actually just interviewed him. I think it comes out. I don't remember when it comes out, around Christmas, but he came and he did an awesome podcast, but he just doesn't know who the characters are. He doesn't know who the players are. He doesn't know much about he doesn't know much about the culture.
Yeah.
And because he shows up, he does his snowboard contests, and he goes back to LA or New York, and he just doesn't, he's not a part, he's a part of the competitions. He's retired now, but he just doesn't care about the culture. I mean, as much as we like people that are, you know, eye to eye with us, that are, but he's also friends with fucking Madonna. Yeah. And he's got venture capital deals with fucking Tom Brady. Like, he's in a whole different arena. Yeah. And he's just wildly famous to where we don't know anything about what that's like. Yeah. And so I don't fault him in any way. And he's done a lot for snowboarding. So then we have snowboarders like Mark McMorris, who are like the top guys who are on the, you know, in the trenches with everybody that know what's going down, you know?
Well, I think that's what's cool about a guy like Berriman, you know? Yeah. Like, the dude came up to watch me and my brother race. Yes. Fucking well vets, and I suck, you know? And like, he's on the line, and he's like, he's filming, and he comes in after the race. He's like, dude, I got the sickest shot. So fucking sick. Yeah. So core, salt of the earth, like real. And if he wasn't a famous dirt bike rider that was one of the best fucking guys of all time on a dirt bike, he would just still be that dude at the track with the, you know, and 100%. It is so cool when those people are involved in the sport. And I guess that's a really great balance. It's like, they're the people we should pay. Yeah. And and because it's like that fucking let money change. Like, he's the guy that it's not going to change him. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think in some ways those events like Day in the Dirt are like so impactful, even almost more impactful than who won the latest Supercross, you know, like, as for selling gear from my perspective, like when you go and you have an experience like Day in the Dirt, and then you're like, damn, that was fucking awesome. I want to buy some Fast House gear, you know? Whereas like I see, you know, like AP get third, I'm not like, damn, I need to get some Thors or whatever, you know what I mean? Like,
those days are done.
Yeah. Or he's on a different outerwear deal now. Or you're saying in general.
Yeah. But those days are done of win on Monday, right? Win on Sunday, sell on Monday. Like, it's so much more. I just think it's cultural. Like, who impacts the culture, you know? Like, dude, Berriman would have sold so much fucking Fast House gear, and he's qualified for a season of main events in Supercross, you know? But it used to be like that, you know, in the magazine era.
I will say, to contradict you on this, I remember I was like, damn, I want to get a gas. I want to get a gas.
Barsha wins A1 and you went and bought one the next day.
It was when Barsha won Melville on Saturday.
Yes.
On Monday, I called the dealership and ordered a gas MC350.
Fuck.
So the marketing still works because
Yeah.
I'm like, when he looks so good. I mean, I just needed a reason to get the bike anyway. I was a Honda guy, but I wanted a 350. What are you going to do? You're going to go red fucking gas 350.
Ride red, get head, buddy. Doesn't matter whether it's a Honda or a gas. No, I'm a big gas guy too, actually. That's what I got a 450 in Dubai. Gas. I fucking love that thing.
Cool. Yeah, they're awesome. It's so fun having a bike, and like I always tell the lady, I'm like, hey, I need an hour. I'm going in the garage, or 2 hours. I'll put on a podcast, listen to music, do my oil change, do a filter.
Oh, it's so therapeutic, bro.
You know, and you're just turning wrenches, and then you're making sure everything's dialed in, and that's the machine aspect
How
of it.
satisfying is just talking up some triple clamps?
Oh God, yeah.
Like, come on, I don't need that much more than that, you know? Give me a good torque wrench, a nice set of triple clamps, and I just want to get it tight. I want to get it close with a T-bar, and then like that feeling of just, bro.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah, really, really all of the whole wrenching. Like me, I was mechanically, I actually threw a piston on my 350.
Damn.
And I fixed it with my friend Matt, and it took us, shout out Sturbans, it took us 3 weekends to do a piston. But we did it, and it still runs. And you're like,
so
how
sick.
cool. That's like right on the peak of my ability level of doing, that was as high as I go. But
A piston on a 4-stroke's a pretty legit effort.
oh my God, yeah.
Are you doing Day in the Dirt this year?
I'm not sure.
Please say yes.
Yeah, maybe I should.
What's the maybe? Like, what's the...
I feel as though as I get closer, well, first of all, I like family stuff and Thanksgiving.
Yeah, fair.
I think Thanksgiving is important. I love just, with my lady's family and everything. But so there's that. And then the other thing is just like wadding up right before winter is not the best look. I don't think I will, but I don't know.
It's always a possibility.
The thing I like about moto and snowboarding is this beautiful symbiosis where like come spring I'm excited to ride moto, come end of fall I'm like let's snowboard, and so there's a beautiful, what they say, distance makes the heart grow fonder kind of situation.
So what are your snowboarding commitments these days?
I have these kind of interesting contracts where I still get paid by brands because I think I'll like put the board behind me in the studio, and I'll put the goggles behind me in the set. And, I still have Pro Model boot with 32, Pro Model outerwear. And it's still selling well, even though I'm not filming video parts. I filmed 2 clips this year. One went in this video called Brown, and the other one went in, actually didn't even go in anything, but
I filmed it.
But I filmed it. Yeah. So I just kind of go and I just do my thing on my snowboard, and the brand support me. When I sign with Capita, they're like, I don't even care if you snowboard. We just like what you do. We like what you do for the culture. We like what you do. We want you representing our stuff. Yeah. And I think that's really cool. Now the formula's changed a little bit with the podcast stuff. And, if we get millions of views, millions of people are listening to us, and I'm saying like you're talking about a 350 that you love, like I'm sure that sells bikes. Yeah. I'm talking about a Capita I like. I'm sure that sells boards. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's fucking crazy. Like, I think that's one of the things too that I've learned through this process, and it sort of comes to like the whole rider pay thing. Yeah. And it's like, yes, I feel like riders should get paid more, and there should be more, like just the minimum should get kind of like raised up, but also I look at what I've been able to create for myself and the leverage that I've been able to apply to my platform, so it's like, the difference is though, like I built my platform in a sense. So it's like I started with 0 followers, 0 subscribers, 0 started completely from zero, and I've created my own platform. But then it's like, okay, so if you have some kind of personality, or you're some kind of individual, or like you're a brand, whatever, and then you've got a platform, then what you need to do is you need to create a lever for you and that platform, So it's like I've built my platform, and then I applied leverage to it, and then that's how I get paid, or that's whatever. And it's like there's an opportunity for everybody to kind of like do that, and you did that. Like you built your podcast. You built your podcast off your career, which you were a well-known snowboarder, and then you just apply leverage to that platform. And it's like, it is pretty crazy what you can do now with the internet. And like, I've got a folder that I save on my phone. Every time somebody says that they bought a 350 because of the podcast, I screenshot it, I put it in. I'm just about at 100.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's like, that's fucking crazy. That's like $1.3 million in dirt bikes at retail price.
100% guaranteed that some, you know, like you're selling more bikes than I guarantee some factory guys. You know what I mean? And look at, you know, another great example of somebody that's doing a good job. It almost comes from the skate snowboard side of things, like the mentality of the content. Like I look at Carson Brown.
Bro.
He goes out on a 2-stroke. I love watching him just wring the neck of a fucking old 2-stroke or XR.
An O2 CR85.
Yeah, and it's like, look, he just got a Red Bull helmet. I mean, I don't know what his situation is, but that guy, I'm more excited for his video, literally just wringing the neck of a clapped out CR85 over the privateer that got 17th place. I mean, I shouldn't say it like that. I don't mean, but you know, I think he's got more value maybe.
Yeah.
You know?
But then look at a guy like Kevin Moran's.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's a dude. Or
sells
like
the shrouds.
Logan Carnier.
Yeah,
dude,
they're good shit.
Kevin Moran's is like doing his own team this year. Like
no way.
Yeah, like so he's got like Kevin Moran's Racing. He's like got his own truck. He's like fully doing his own thing. And like he'd make kind of like some decent money now, you know, and fucking so he should. You know, another awesome example of a dude making good money, AJ Catanzaro.
Yeah, he's got the coaching thing.
You know, there is, and that's a guy, like he's very passionate about that. Like he's always kind of that guy, like the coaching and the technique and all that sort of stuff. So it's like he's found a way, you know, he's built a platform and he's just apply leverage to it. Like there is a lot of ways these days to make money and be autonomous in that sense. You know, you don't have to rely on how much you get paid to qualify for a main event or how much a team pays or what a sponsor. Like you can kind of create your own value. You know, you don't have to be told what you're worth in a sense.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I think is cool, like I do Pulp MX Fantasy, and I think that is really cool because all of a sudden I know all the privateers now.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh fuck, like, I'm gonna roll the dice on Moran's. He qualified fucking 16th or some shit, and you're like, but you get hella points. So like that's been fun, and I actually wish there was. We actually don't have a unified snowboarding. We have the natural selection. We kind of have this fragmented contest series thing in snowboarding. But I wish I could, like, I love gambling. We do a ring. We do like a Super Bowl ring and all this shit. Yeah. So,
that's so sick.
Yeah. Maybe I'll come day in the dirt. I should fucking.
When do you get married?
Oh, I didn't set the date yet.
Oh, okay. So that's not like a thing that you don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay. Just ride within. Dude, you got to come do it. I just booked my motorhome. I'm going to have a motorhome there. I'm going to like. Me and my wife.
The boys party for that one, dude.
I know.
Holy shit.
Well, yeah. Dude, I don't really drink either. I wouldn't say I'm definitely not sober, but I don't really drink alcohol much. So like, those events for me, I'm like, I don't really fit in like the way that, you know, everyone else does on those events, but I'm still going to go and fucking have a lot of fun. My wife, she's like, this will be her first Thanksgiving in America. So like we're in Trader Joe's last night and she's like looking at all like the turkey filling and that she had no idea. She's like, what is Thanksgiving? What is it about? What are you supposed to cook? So I think we'll be going and just like trying to cook some good food and all that sort of shit.
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
I'm in on now that the whole like my serious race for the year is done. Then I'm like really just excited to go and do a 45-minute.
Why don't you race Mammoth in the spring?
This spring?
Yeah.
I was pretty keen for it, but I just kind of like didn't really have a bike situation. It was actually, I thought I was going to come to America and like KTM would just give me a 350 and fucking life would be sweet. And I just struggled to get a reply from people. And then if it wasn't for Steve, I would be completely fucked.
No way.
Yeah. So Steve lent me his bike and then my wife brought my suspension over. So I had a bike for Mammoth through Steve, but I didn't have any suspension. It was like trail bike shit. And I was just like, ugh, fuck. I just could see myself. It was risky for me to go and do it. But it's on my bucket list. Same as Loretta's. Kind of want to do Loretta's.
Dude, but there's some dogs. Yeah.
It'd be fucking... It's one of those things like I want to train more now after this race.
The funnest race of the year for me out of all of them is I race Washougal Old Timers.
Really?
Yeah, and it's I think they're like 17-minute, 15 or because they used to be 20s. I know if you're in B class, it's 20s. I think the C class might be like 17s or something, or like some shit like that. But you race what is it? I think it's 2 on Saturday, 1 on. It's a 3 moto format, and dude, it's the week or 2 before the national, so it's prepped so good. And I love camping in the big redwoods and the Northwest, and go surfing on the Oregon coast after, go snowboarding. So, but,
Dude, so when is it? It would be like July, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's in July. Yeah, right before the 2 weeks before the national.
And what bikes do you race? Like you can ride 350.
Yeah,
okay.
I raced the 350.
Dude, I could be in on doing that.
A bunch of snowboarders raced that one. Scott Blum, who's a snowboarder. I don't know if you met him, but he was at Mammoth.
Heard of him,
he got 9th in our class, I think, or something like that when we were there. But yeah, a bunch of us go race and camp and good times.
That's sick. I rode Washougal after the national, the day after.
Oh, you did the Alpine Stars ride day?
Yeah,
cool.
with the Alpine Stars thing.
Yeah.
And dude, that track is so much fun.
Yeah.
The whoops are fucking scary though.
Oh, they had him peaky for the national. They mellow him out for the.
Oh yeah, I was not a fan. I rode around him.
222?
Yeah, and then I rode around him. Like once I did it, and then I was like, okay, I'm kind of done now. I don't need this. The road jump is so
amazing.
Much fun.
Yeah.
I wish I could replicate that jump on a track one day.
Yeah. Dude, it's so funny coming through the whoops and going like, I'm going like 2223 or some shit at the end, or just 222, and you're like, fucking feeling good about that. And then you see like Tomac fucking like 444 or whatever it is, and you're just like, how the fuck do these guys do this? It's insane.
Yeah. When I said it was like funny, that's become like a bit of a meme, but there was a time it was at Millville, and Tomac came down this fucking hill, and I like got scared thinking that the bike was about to hit me because of the ground moving, like literally him hitting fucking braking bumps. I had my back turned, I was kind of like walking down the hill, and it was like a fucking stampede coming down this hill. And it was just Tomac braking. And I'm like, what the actual fuck is happening in physics if I can feel that from this far away? You fucking freak. Like, what is actually going on, dude?
Dude, you hear that Yami just barking too. Man, what do you got predictions? Supercross? Because he's back, right?
It's going to be gnarly.
Yeah. Jet, him. Yeah.
What do you think? What did you think of Jet outdoors? Were you one of those? Are you in the Jet camp that basically thinks that he had it easy and he only got a perfect season because no one was there?
I'll tell you, I grenaded in fantasy because I bet against Jet every weekend. I was like, the streak's going to end today. I'm not picking him. The streak's going to end today. I'm not picking him. And about halfway through the season, I was like, I think I
need to pick the dude.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. He's good.
I think I need to pick the guy that's won every single fucking race.
Yeah, I was under the camp like he like the streak's gonna end. I was the streak's gonna end guy.
Dude, so Washougal, I got my visa to come back to the US in like the fucking 16th of January, and Washougal was the 22nd. So I like literally booked a flight. I just made it. Like I
Did you go to the national or just the ride day? I was there too. I flew out just for the race.
Oh, yeah. No,
Sorry, continue.
I was there for the race, and then the ride day the next day. But I booked I think it was like the Thursday. I got my visa the Thursday. I booked a flight Thursday night for Friday morning. I flew out Friday morning, which got me to LA Friday. Because of all the bullshit, I had to spend 3 hours in fucking customs. Then I got a flight to Portland, and then got to the race. And the whole time, I've known Jet since he was on a 60. And so
he's Aussie. Yeah, that makes sense.
And so the whole time, I was just being like, dude, please don't lose today. Like I'm going to walk in the rig and be like, hey, bro. Like, I'd see the boys. And I was like, please don't let this be the day that he fucking loses. Because I'm like weirdly superstitious about shit. And I just almost just didn't want to like talk, didn't want to be here. I didn't want any of like my interfere. You know when it's like you go back in the time and you like wouldn't want to see yourself to like fuck up the future. That's how I felt about like Jet at Washougal. But yeah, it was fucking rad. Like it was sick. It was so cool as well that day because like he thought he was gonna lose that day. Like he was like, this is probably the day. Like he was playing some like, I don't know whether it was mind games or just like he genuinely felt like that. But yeah, he was just like, I'll probably lose today.
AP hole shot in Moto 2. Yeah. And yeah, that was insane. I remember that the place was electric when AP hole shotted. It was like a fucking, it was like
Where were you standing?
So, the road jump. And then you come back down, and then there's the step down, and then the downhill section, the shadows. So we were at the top on the left. It's kind of our shout out to Ty Crandall. His family owns a track there, or like he's not owns it, but he's been a big part of that track for a long time. He takes such good care of us. Washougal, he is a fucking legend. He makes it. I actually told him, I'm like, I want to get married right next to the fucking whoops at Washougal because he got married at Washougal, and I've been trying to pitch my lady. She's not biting, but I'm like,
not doing it.
Because I have a deep love for Washougal, but watching Deegan hit the sand scrub bump, and then landing in the sand was unfucking believable. It was awesome, and
he fully snapped that moto.
Yeah,
like fully. We got to see, like, and I've said it before, but I'll say it again. We will look at that race forever in like the whole Deegan discography. Like that was the single that fucking made him, number one on the Billboard 100. Like that was his breakout race, I think. He was fucking incredible that moto.
Yeah, he was just riding like a fucking pit bull,
just
like a straight up pit bull.
Savage, dude.
Yeah. And then the other thing that was really fun to see in person that you don't always see, because I fly out there with my own money and buy the, like I'm going as a fan. I honestly don't even want to know the guys. I don't want to know the pro. I want to be just a fan. Like
that's cool.
I like just being a fan and being like, I'm in the industry in snowboarding. I don't need to be in it in moto.
Yeah.
And so going there, like watching, I think Jet would land and then like preload the suspension and jump all the braking bumps. And he would do that. Levi would do that a little bit. El Hombre would kind of do that. And Deegan would do that. But there's only a few guys that were like on the BMX. It's almost like they're on a fucking BMX bike. They're just hopping around and like it looks like a little BMX bike for them.
It's crazy to watch it change. Like when you're a fan for a long time and like I grew up, you 35?
36.
Okay, so we're very similar in age. So we grew up like McGrath, Carmichael, Stewart. Like that's our slither of time, And back then it was just fucking just holding the cunt on and just fucking loose. Loose is fast, swapping everywhere. And then now we're just in this era where it's like we're just watching dancers. Like we're watching these fucking ballerinas just like place the bike around the track and like wheelie shit and just so smooth, just aggression on the throttle. I mean, Deegan kind of like changes it, but the 250 sort of just, you can ride it like that a bit still. But we've watched the sport change in the last couple of years, and it's like, it's actually so fun to be a part of witnessing that shift. And I'm like, where does this go? Like, and does it go full circle? And when Deegan's on a 450, is it going to be just straight send fest again? Or is there going to be this mix, this perfect mix between, that send and the technique? Like, that to me, I think is so fucking cool.
Oh my God. It's incredible. It's incredible. And then going back to the old footage, you look at the ruts weren't nearly as deep.
No.
Now the ruts you watch them, they're so fucking deep. And for me, I go out there, I'm working on ruts all the time. So, to be able to see the way Jet and Sexton stand up and go through that, and then I'll go try to do that at the local track, and you're like, this, like my mind can't comprehend how good you guys are at recording. And I'm trying to show my lady, and she's just like, yeah, that's great. Like they like the airtime, but I'm like, no, you don't understand this inside that he just hit.
Oh,
you're like, how the fuck did he rail that so hard?
And yeah, like carrying momentum. Like that's the biggest thing that I think is changed in the last few years, is just how much momentum they will take into a turn. And it's just like off the brakes, full roll speed, and just crazy amount of just like flow and G's at the same time, and you're just like, dude, that's actually like back in the day when you'd see like Carmichael and Stewart and those guys like just on the brakes and then just you can relate to that. Like everyone kind of could do that, like go in super deep, slam on the brakes and just fucking gas it all the way out. Nowadays it's just like, it feels kind of unrelatable to just see the Mach 5 and just rolling through a turn and just so smooth on the throttle. It's like, that's pretty unattainable, right? About now.
I feel like back in the day, like the training wasn't so aggressive. Now these kids are born in like a test tube and thrown on a fucking 50 and getting like, you know, if you're coached from when you can barely walk all the way through super minis and you're just like working a program with all these training camps or whatever they got, what do they call them? Factory, the places where the kids go to train. And training facility kids. And then you look at this, it's just going to keep going. Like their kids are going to keep getting better, faster, younger. Kids that are watching Jet that are 3 years old right now are going to be better than Jet is now.
I wonder what the sport does to accommodate for that. Because it's
you gotta
like
slow it down, right? They got to slow down the speeds. No.
Well, yeah. I wonder like how though, because like Supercross, they're going faster. Like they're going faster than the track can let them almost. You know. And I think about in snowboarding. Like I watch snowboarding now. I couldn't even tell you a trick that they did. Yeah. Like back in the day, I could be like a casual snowboarding fan and be like, holy fuck, he just did a 1080. Or he just did, you know, whatever it is. Whereas now I'm just like, I have no fucking idea what that is. Like I would have to, like I'm friends with Scotty a bit and I watch what he does and I'm just like, cool, I don't know what that is. That's
Blum?
James.
Oh, Scotty James. Oh yeah, he's Aussie. Yeah. Sorry, yep.
So I'm like, okay, cool, that's fucking dope. Like, I have no idea what that is. I don't know whether that's front, back, up, down, fucking 1080, 1280, 1440, 1555. Like, well, I don't know what the fuck you guys are actually up to now. And I just don't know if there's a moto equivalent of that.
Well, it's interesting you talk about that with snowboarding because it used to be when I was a kid watching it, somebody do a 900. I'm like, I can figure do that. I was actually like, I think one day I could see myself doing that.
Yeah, okay.
And now if you're a kid and you watch, it's gone like they're doing 1800s. Which
is that what
two
it is?
900s on a jump, which is just and these kids are training on airbags in the summer on bristles. And then like it's like a bristle slope, and then they chuck into an airbag. So they all summer they just repetition, and they're on like they got iPads, they got coaches, and it's turning into like aerial ski jumping, like this aerial gymnastic kind of sport, which actually fucking doesn't help anything when you don't know what's going on and it's so wild. Like it doesn't actually help the sport. And so going back to moto, I don't know about accommodating for speed, but what I think. Where I see the direction going that I think would be really cool. Like I went to Washougal years ago for the 125 Dream Race before the main event. Yeah. And it's like, dude, I think the things for the culture, if the AMA could accommodate for the culture more and we're going to do a 125 Dream Race at a few different races. We're going to have McGrath, we're going to have Carmichael, we're going to have Browner or whatever. And like all these like kind of OG vet, like I'd be more excited for watching McGrath racing a 125 than I probably would be for the 250 main. Yeah. You know, and things like that build the culture, or like a vintage bike race. Yeah. You know, before like we're going to do, you know, I don't know how the logistics work and things like that, but I feel like if the AMA did more for the culture in doing cool shit, not just like in addition to the premier racing, I think that would help the culture a shitload. Yeah, because you know you're seeing now, and especially in Supercross where it's just so like calculated, and everyone's doing the same thing by practice. Every like 3 laps of practice. Have you been in many Supercrosses and watched like all day like the whole practice? It's fucking crazy, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That in 2 laps they're doing everything. Yeah, they're doing basically the same lap time that they're going to do in qualifying on the 3rd lap of practice, and it's like kind of the same in the national. Like they've clocked the game every week. They go there and they've already clocked the game, and then it just becomes like this
like routine parade around. Everything's routine. Everything, they know what to expect every single time. And it's like, yeah, I don't know that there's, in the same way that with snowboarding where it's like, it's unrelatable now. It's like, is it relatable to watch dudes never make a mistake? Never. And then, but then the flip side of that is like when they do, it's this crazy fucking crash that like ruins their life for 6 months. And you're like, well, I don't know if I want that either.
Yeah, fuck, man. I don't have the answers for these things, but I do feel like, again, just going back to like the cultural ride days, like the what you have going on, the day in the dirt, the fun, like bringing racing back to just being fun, at least for the consumer, for the weekend warrior, for the vet, I think is massively fun for the sport, is huge for the sport.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and it's definitely happening more now than or maybe I'm just like aware of it more.
Yeah.
Maybe my eyes were like closed to it in the past, but I think now, like when you've got dudes like, JG, Berryman, McGrath, like that's actually cool as fuck to see McGrath at the Mammoth. Like that was such a highlight for me. I never got to watch him race in person. Like I watched him on VHS tapes. Obviously I grew up in Australia, but dude, how cool is it that the greatest supercross racer of all time still loves the sport enough to just go and race, like drive 7 hours, 8 hours to just go and race, and it's kind of unique to our sport that actually can happen.
Yeah. And that's it. That's it. 100%. I don't know if this is an interesting thing to talk about, but thinking about racing and moto culture versus like snow and skate culture, I almost feel like I feel like I used to feel as though moto was like really kind of like alpha.
Yeah.
Like a lot of dudes walking around with their chest puffed out, like I'm faster than you, like this guy's a fucking pussy, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like that kind of vibe. And coming from skateboarding and snowboarding, you have like a lot of like creatives.
Yeah.
Like you have a lot of artsy fuckers, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And you got people that like are incredible, but they just kind of roll around and they're misty and then they'll bust something crazy. And it's actually almost a way where you're not actually trying to be the tough guy. You're kind of almost the humble killer.
Yeah.
It almost has a humble killer vibe, a lot of it. And so I think that, that almost that mentality in some ways of being able to, just not having that alpha vibe.
Yeah.
But I feel like Tyler doesn't have it, no. Twitch, like Vicky, they're just cool. They feel like a skateboarder or a snowboarder to me. Whereas some of like, especially like a 21-year-old race kid's just like, I'm fucking faster than you. What up?
Yeah.
Like and it's like, no, that ain't it, dude. That ain't it. The vibe should be like, let's go fucking have a good time on the dirt bikes.
Let's drop this game, motherfuckers. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do you think that that's because it's like a contact sport? Like moto is in a weird lane where it's kind of a fight.
Yeah, good point.
And skateboarding, you're never fighting the dude. So imagine
That's a good point.
I'll throw
I
this.
like this.
I'll throw
this
this
is a
at
good
you.
analogy.
So all right, let's say street league of skating, right? That's still a competition, right? Let's say instead of doing your individual run, they have 10 dudes go at once. So you've got 2 heats.
Yes.
Dude, right? So you got heat 1. It's got fucking Niger and it's got all the dudes that I don't know skating. And then they're like dropping it and they're all like looking like, where the fuck are you dropping in? I'm fucking dropping in, bro. And then it's just like everyone's just this cluster fucking boom, big shoulder
People
charges and like, get the fuck out of my... That's kind of moto.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So I think that, and I'm a huge UFC guy, and I'm always talking about the parallels between the UFC and moto, and everyone's always telling me to shut the fuck up, and I'm like, you're not thinking about this as what it actually is. It's a fight. And the dudes are fighting their teammates.
Yep.
Like Deegan every single day at the goat farm is fighting with those guys.
Yeah, I like
Levi
that.
Kitchen left because he's sick of fucking fighting Deegan every day of his life. That's what I would assume because I would be sick of fucking fighting Deegan every day. You know, like he is that alpha cocky motherfucker that's like scrimmage. Like I want to compete. So I think that's why moto has that. Free riding is not like that. Yeah, like Tyler and those dudes.
That makes sense. So essentially, I think to look at it objectively, you're totally right because racing, there's a winner and there's a fucking loser.
Yeah,
that's it. Like there's it is, I went faster than you. There is no debate.
Yeah.
And so you are fighting there. It is about lap times. It is about being faster. Snowboarding is totally subjective.
Yeah.
Like you could argue that the guy got fifth could win.
Yeah.
And so snowboarding almost borders on, depending on your mindset, a lot of people look at it as more of an art.
Yeah.
The way I like to describe snowboarding is it's a freedom of self-expression.
For sure.
And it's like, how do you want to move your body around and look cool? You want to have dope style? You want to do shit and make it look good? There are no rules.
Yeah.
So when you start creating parameters around snowboarding where it's like there are no rules, it invites itself to artsy creative fuckers. And there are, like, take for example like Scotty James, your buddy, like, dude, he's on some like I interviewed him and I'm like, what do you think at the top of the half pipe? And I love that he said this. He's like, I want to fucking kill the guy. And I'm like, that's amazing. You know, whereas when you're filming a trick with 3 of your buddies for a movie in the backcountry, it's not always I want to kill the guy. It's like, I want this shit to look fresh. Like I want my style to look good. I'm not going to do a 1440. I'm going to do a 180, but I'm not going to flinch. I'm going to get a tranquilizer dart to the neck in the air. So I'm just chilling. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that's the vibe. That's the difference, I think, with the mentalities. But then you take the free riders like Twitch, you take Bierman, you take Vicky, and they're like, you know, they're making shit look good. Like it's like the whip looks better than the fucking backflip where you do the hand thing and you put your feet on the fucking the thing, and then you gotta undo the hook. You gotta undo the hook. You gotta fucking redo the hook. And like, I'm glad we got away from like the fucking 45 hooks on the bike and all the weird shit that they were doing. Yeah.
No, it's so true. And like, you could think about it like positive sum game versus a negative sum game. Yeah. And it's like in snowboarding, it's like you kind of, that you're competing, but you're not on the same thing at the same time. So it's like in that moment, he's not taking anything away from you in a sense, where it's like moto is very zero sum. Like there's someone has to win, and because someone wins, someone else loses. And it is the same in all competitions, but like you said, it's like very subjective, where it's like objectively, this guy on this racetrack right now can take this away from me. Mm-hmm. And I can actually do something about that. Mm-hmm. I can pass this guy and beat him. I can fucking clean him out. Like there's a lot that I can do to make sure that guy doesn't win. And I think that's where some of that kind of gnarliness comes in, because it's the same with like downhill mountain biking. Like a lot of those guys are friends. Yeah. You know, because they're racing each other, but it's like one dude starts at the top and he's got the course to himself, and it's like, hey man, fucking do your thing. Like if you beat me, you beat me, you know, whereas moto, it's just like not like that. Like, dude, we posted a clip yesterday of Barsha saying that he didn't talk to Eli Tomac for 16 years.
He's seen him in the fucking
every
weekend.
31 weekends he's seen this motherfucker, you know? And it's like 16 years. Can you imagine being in someone's vicinity, like really close proximity to a person for 16 years and not saying one word to them? Yeah. That is hectic, dude.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so good. Like I was talking to my fiance. We're at Supercross in Salt Lake. I'm looking at all the guys on the line. I'm like, these guys fucking hate each other. They fucking hate each other. She's like, really? I'm like, yes.
Yeah. Well, dude, so Cooper Webb and AC got sat on a plane next to each other one weekend in Supercross this year. First time they'd ever spoken in their entire life. Known each other since they were 4. What?
Yeah, that's insane.
So gnarly.
Yeah. Snowboarding, you come off, you like at the Olympics, they're landing the best runs of their life. All their competitors are embracing them with hugs and they land. Yeah. It's like it's a totally different deal. Like when I tell that to my snowboard buddies, I'm like, these guys hate each other. But I'll tell you what, it's moto beef is so entertaining.
So good.
God, I love moto beef. It's so like we don't have enough beef in snowboarding. Like, the guys, the fact that they hate each other and they're all like tough guys is fucking just so fun as a consumer.
Oh, know? And they can hit each other. Yeah. Like they do. Like it's fucking. Did you see the World Supercross stuff with Vince Freed?
Yeah, dude. Holy shit. And then the post-race interview, they're all still chirping each other and he's calling Dino a whiner and stuff. It's unbelievable.
It's funny with Vince, like, because I actually, dude, I had like a full intervention with him at the gym. Like the other day, he goes to the same gym that I go to, and I was like, because I don't know how. Actually, I'll just ask, how do you feel about like do you divorce your personality or like your like the on-screen online you, like you can divorce that from like the you that's just in your kitchen making toast for your missus kind of dude, you know, like there's a very clear distinction between like what the online camera dude is and then like who you are at home. Like, do you feel the same kind of way?
I can't ever think. I don't really think about that much. I know that Runky tells me when I go in my chair, our agent, he's like, "That's your power chair." but other than that, like I do feel. I don't think about that like that. But continue.
Yeah, because I guess like I've definitely made a decision that like really early on that I just don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Like if you say what you want to say, think what you want to think. Like there's guys that comment like I'm very lucky. Like we have a very positive. Like there's a lot of positive comments and people really enjoy this, but there's always fuckheads basically.
Yep.
And especially like with the clips. Do you guys post clips much?
Yep.
Yeah. So with the clips, it's very clickbaity.
Yep.
It's very, you know, like that's how YouTube works. Very sorry. That's just the fucking reality of it. And so I'll always get the people that'll kind of comment in regards to that shit. But like I can just fully, like today I roasted a dude. I'm like, who hurt you? Like that's what I comment. But I have no feelings towards it. Like I actually don't give a fuck. So I made a decision. It's like, if you want to say what you want about me online, have beef with me. Like me and Pulp, we went back and forth for a bit.
You did well with Steve on when you called in. Dude, I was like, holy, you kind of fucking owned him, dude. I remember being like, because I love Pulp too. I don't discriminate. Like I said, I race desert, I race track, I race GP, listen to Pulp, I listen to Gypsy. I'm fucking guy. Kiefer testing, you know.
Sign me up.
Sign me up. I'm listening. But anyway, continue.
Oh, but you know, that example there, I had no feelings in that. Like I just looked at that. I was like, okay, he's probably going to talk about this. I got this that I would like to say. Like, and I genuinely the whole weed thing, like the Cheech and Chong. Like I was like, hey, bro, that's weed. That's like a weed reference. And you're like putting down this kid, and he'd never done it at all. And you'd wrote an article that then made Yamaha fucking drug test a kid that's never done drugs before. And you say you're a journalist. You got a fact wrong. I called you a bad journalist. If you like the maths, like you fucked up, and I'm just saying it how it is. I have zero feelings. I don't hate the dude. I don't dislike zero. But I look at that situation, I'm like, okay, well, this is pretty good fucking content for people. And that was some of his best viewed shit, you know? So I am very good, I think, these days at like fully divorcing the online thing, the whatever. And it's like, say what you want to say. It's all good. Like, I'm not going to let that stuff affect me. And I kind of had this conversation with Vince Freeze because he was like kind of bummed and like, oh, you know, just want people to fucking like me and I'm a really nice guy. And I just told him, I'm like, dude. And then I'm like, you should just lean in. Like, lean into this, start talking a bit of shit. He's like, oh, I'm not really that guy. And I'm like, but you will start to kind of win people over by just leaning into it. Like, play the character, divorce your feelings from it, and I think you'd start to see shit turn. And I said, pick who you want to be in that sense, you know, like pick something you feel comfortable playing and that you can play, but not, you know, like divorce your feelings from it. And so I was like, do you follow MMA at all? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, Chael Sonnen. Just be Chael Sonnen. Like he was the dude. Do you watch much of you?
Nope.
So anyway, he was like the fucking most majestical shit talker of all time. Like, before Connor did it kind of differently. Connor was very like bravado, but whereas Chael would like pick you apart and just fucking destroy you with like really good shit, you know. But anyway, so I kind of like had this combo with him, and it was cool to watch him in that whole World Supercross. Like I feel like he finally kind of like leaned in, because he's always the guy that he'll like take people out and then say, because I'm like, I go, bro, you can't take someone out and then say, I didn't mean to do it.
Oh, God, I hate that.
I'm like, bro, you can't, that's why people fucking hate you.
Yeah.
Like, people will actually like you more if you go, yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I cleaned him out. Like, get out of my fucking way. You're in the way. You don't want me to take you out? Fucking be quicker than me. You know? So I think this was like the first time where like he kind of like finally leaned in. And I went to the WSX in the UK in June or July, whatever it was. And And I said to him before the press conference, so I was like really hard on him after the last one in Melbourne, and we're all in like the room, and I sat down in like the writer's room, and I was like, hey, I'm going to ask you some shit about this race and this whole thing. I called you out in Melbourne, fully go at me. Like, I'm completely, just rip me apart and fucking send it.
No way.
Yeah, I was like, I'm completely fucking fine with this. And then so I like asked him the question and said like, hey, I got it wrong. Fucking feel free to roast. And he didn't do it. And I'm like, fuck, come on, bro. Like, this is what will actually make people like you, because it is kind of fun watching. You never want dangerous shit, but we rubbin's racing, and we do fucking like it.
Yeah, and we like people that say what the fuck they think in this day and age. It's so rare. It's so fucking rare. Yeah, and it's interesting to talk about I think like the negative comments thing's an interesting one to deal with too, because if you put weight on positive comments, then what happens when the comments turn negative? And what I realized through that process is the only thing that matters is what I fucking think of myself. And if I know who I am, and I can look at the mirror and know who I am, and know, and be honest with who I am, it doesn't fucking matter what anybody else thinks. You know what matters, what people think? My fiance, I care what she thinks of me. My best friends, my family. That's the only, they know who I am, right? And so I think that the negative comments thing, it really, what's more important than what somebody else thinks of you is what you think of yourself. And once I kind of worked on that, and I was like, I'm going to fucking, as corny as it said, like, I'm going to show some kindness to myself. I'm going to work on kindness towards myself. And then all of a sudden the comments hit the fucking pan and melt off like butter. I don't give a shit whether it's positive or negative. It's nice to get positive. It's fine. It's great to get negative. What really matters, it's like you do a podcast, you're like, that was a good podcast. That's what matters. It doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, and you just keep following that. That's the key, but when you're like, give away all your power to other people that are fucking going through whatever in their life. You never know. And controversy, like you were saying earlier, really brings the worst out in people. Holy fuck. People like lose all control of their bodily functions and type mean
fucking
shit.
Twitching and shit.
Yeah. So that was interesting shit.
That's fine. I just gotta check that camera real
Yeah.
quick. It's flashing. Dude,
How you feeling, Jace?
We've already done 3 hours.
Have we?
Have you want
it's
to wrap
What?
wrap it up? Pretty
Sure.
Yeah, cool. We can.
Yeah. How are you feeling about it?
Good. Fucking loved it. I've had a blast.
Cool.
I have that. Just to finish on what you were saying, then.
Okay.
I have literally that exact same perspective.
Yep.
Where it's just like, hey, I'm fucking married. I got really good friends. I got a good family. They call me out when I'm being a piece of shit. Like, they're the people that know, who I am. And like, there's so many people that I love fighting with people on the comments, and just like, again, with just zero feeling, like I have zero fucking regard for it. And it's just like, I love to just be like, hey, do you understand that you're actually a piece of shit? Like, if you're a person that will go on the internet and comment on a free podcast that you willingly clicked into, this is not on free-to-air television where you turned on the channel and I was fed to you. Like, you did this to yourself. Do you understand your role and responsibility here? And it's like, and you've commented all this negative fucked up shit, makes you not a great dude. Like, I think you should be aware of that. But yeah, it's like, and the what you said about the positive and the negative, it's like you can't want the positive if you're not willing to accept the negative.
Totally.
Because I had the first one that was like, that I was rattled. It was like, I think episode 30 or something. It was with Chad Reed, and I was like, this was fucking awesome. Like, we killed it. I've never heard Chad talk like this. Like, and then too, there's always so much that people don't see and understand. Like, there was 40 minutes of the podcast with Chad that I cut out because he asked me to, because it was stuff about his dad. He was like crying, like it was fucking heavy.
Damn.
Yeah. And so there's like this big section of the podcast that I cut, and no one will ever see it. No one will ever have the context. And then people will make their like, that was the first time I got like a lot of negative comments. Like, the fucking podcast got hundreds of thousands of views and shit. And yeah, that was one where I was like, dude, this fucking sucks. Like, this is not fair. I'm like a really nice guy. But I was super down with all the positives.
Yeah.
Like before that, like I was fucking living, So yeah, that was like a pretty good early lesson that like, okay, don't want the positives if you're not willing to accept the negatives too.
Hey, the internet's a weird place because it's like the internet's not real. It's not a real place, right? So like, for example, you're people like, I want a bunch of followers and this and that. And sure, you might get some nice messages and communicate with some people, and that's like really special. I actually really value when people reach out to me and with kind messages.
I feel this like exact
I
same.
love that. I do think that's really special. However, in the situation of the real world, like when your fucking car breaks down, whether you got 100,000 followers or you got 10, you're still going to call those same 5 people. You still got that same 5 people in your life. That's your core. It's like this false sense of friendship where you're really just like staring into a screen and texting somebody across the world that you don't hang out with. And I don't know. I guess I go back to, just watering the flowers that are your like close relationships. That's all that matters. Yeah. The people close to you, what they think of you.
Yeah. Well, mate, we just did 3 hours and I fucking loved it. It was awesome. We traversed a lot of different topics and landscapes, but hopefully this will not be your last appearance on the show. You have an open invite whenever you're in Southern California. Come and bullshit. People can watch The Bomb Hole on YouTube. You can subscribe to it on Spotify and everywhere else where you get your podcasts. Any last words, last thoughts?
That's it. It's an honor to come down and talk moto with you. Fucking love riding moto, so it's been a blast, and appreciate everybody that listened and tuned in. And
maybe Day in the Dirt?
Maybe Day in the Dirt. Yeah, I'll show you a wheel on the top of Mount St. Helen.
Let's go. 350 gang, baby. Thanks so much, brother.
Hell yeah. Thank you, Chase.
We're excited to announce the launch of our new membership site, gypsytales.com. packed with exclusive content and perks that you won't find anywhere else. This is your chance to become a part of the Gypsy Gang. And as a special bonus, if you sign up to an annual membership, you'll be entered into the draw to win our custom-built TC125. Gypsy Gang.